Chapter 137. The small tree was grayish-silver in color, and its branches were intertwined like vines. Its shape was strange, and the branches formed a strange arc. At first glance, it looked like a pregnant woman with a big belly. In the belly of the heavy branches, there was a golden light overflowing. At a closer look, there were two golden fruits the size of a fist. The fruits looked like babies, and they looked like real people. A faint fragrance spread out. "Boss Chu, what tree is this?" Looking at the strange grayish-silver tree below, Xiaoyin could not help but ask again. "This is the soul infant demon tree." Without waiting for Chu Bei to speak, Yao Zun's exclaimed, "Is there anything unusual?" Xiaoyin looked at Yao Chan. "Do you see the two golden fruits? They are called soul infant fruits, and they are treasures to temper the soul. They are even useful to Do Zuns." Yao Chen paused and said, "If Boss Chu did not give me a physical body and wanted to form a suitable physical body for me, this would be an indispensable item. In the ancient ruins, most of the spiritual items will be guarded by strange beasts." Feng Zunjia looked at the calm lake. As soon as he finished speaking, he waved his right hand. Suddenly, a terrifying wind blade that was dozens of feet long swept into the lake. Accompanied by a loud noise, the calm lake was suddenly stirred up with monstrous waves. Then, a huge shadow broke out of the lake. Its huge eyes were filled with ferocity as it stared at venerable wind. As expected of the ancient ruins, the Tong Tian dragon has already disappeared in the outside world. At a glance, Yao Chen recognized the gigantic creature in front of him. It had a snake-like body and was covered in green scales. "You dare to disturb my sleep and covet my treasure." The Tong Tian dragon opened its ferocious mouth and spoke in human language. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. At this moment, a few figures were attracted by the huge commotion and landed on the lake. That is the soul infant demon tree, and it has already borne the soul infant fruit. That is Venerable Wind from Xingyun Ge and Boss Chu. Among the numerous figures, there were some who recognized the nascent soul demon tree. However, when they saw Feng Zunjia and Chu Bei, the blazing desire that had just risen in their eyes immediately disappeared. After Chu Bei glanced at the people who had rushed over, his gaze landed on the infant soul demon tree below. With a wave of his sleeve, a spatial force directly lifted the infant soul demon tree up along with the soil below. "You're courting death." Looking at the soul infant demon tree that he was guarding being uprooted, the Tong Tian Jiao dragon let out a furious roar and opened his mouth to bite Chu Bei. Chu Bei was expressionless as he waved his hand again. The space around the Tong Tian Jiao suddenly distorted, and with a miserable cry of pain, he fell back into the lake. The system successfully retrieved the nascent soul demon tree and nascent soul fruit. After evaluation, the host has received 1 million willpower points. After successfully harvesting the infant soul tree, the system's voice rang out. Rumble. Just as Chu Bei was about to continue to the Crimson Palace in the center, roar rang out not far from the southeast. Then, a dazzling light beam shot up into the sky from that direction. What happened over there? Someone must have found the treasure. Let's go and take a look. Above the lake, the others also noticed the light beam that shot up into the sky from the southeast. One by one, they turned into rainbows and quickly flew over. Chu Bei naturally did not stay, and the group also flew over. Soon, Chu Bei and the group appeared at the location where the light beam had shot out from. This was a golden light shield that was inverted into the shape of a bowl, and its diameter was about 100 feet long. At this moment, several forces had gathered around the golden light shield. Among these forces, there were some that Chu Bei had dealt with before, such as the Wind Thunder Pavilion, Huangquan Pavilion, Wanjian Pavilion, and Burning Flame Valley. The most eye-catching force was none other than the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe, one of the 3 overlords of the magical beast world. The experts of the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe had already transformed into human form, but the pair of phoenix wings on their backs clearly showed their identities. "Boss Chu, you are also here." After Tang Jin sensed Chu Bei's arrival, surprise flashed across his eyes. He immediately led Tang Hua and the other experts of Burning Flame Valley to greet him. After Chu Bei nodded in response, his eyes continued to look at the experts of the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe. The latter was led by a beautiful woman. Her golden phoenix wings flashed, carrying a brilliant light. Looking at her aura, she actually had the strength of a 6-star Dozun. Beside her, there was an old man. Their strengths were 2 stars Dozun and 3 stars Dozun respectively. What is this? There is clearly nothing inside. So why are they all gathered here? Looking at the empty golden light shield in front of him, Xiao Yin frowned slightly, his eyes filled with confusion. This is a beast spiritual shield. Only a top-tier magical beast, whose strength had reached the Doshang class when it was alive, can form it before its death. Yao Qin's face was grave as he looked at the golden light shield in front of him. If there is no special method to break it, even if all of us join hands, it is likely that we will not be able to break the beast spiritual shield. What? A Doshang class magical beast? Xiao Yan's face revealed a shock. No wonder the golden light shield gave him a kind of suppressive feeling when he looked at it. That dead Doshang class magical beast should be related to the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe. Tang Jin pointed in the direction of the group from the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe. The beautiful woman, who was the leader, placed her hand on the light shield. That's not right. This beast spiritual shield not only has the aura of my tribe's elder, it also has the aura of an ancient void dragon. Suddenly, the beautiful woman from the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe seemed to have sensed something, and her expression changed abruptly. Hearing this, the 2 old men beside the beautiful woman faced each other. Don't tell me that there is another ancient void dragon that died here. We will know once we open it. The beautiful woman from the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe coldly swept her gaze over the human experts around her, after which she bit her slender finger in front of a few pairs of eyes. Just as the beautiful woman dripped her golden blood on the beast spiritual shield, the shield fluctuated, and a few cracks appeared on the beast spiritual shield. In the next moment, the experts from the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe stepped into the shield. Strangely, just as the experts from the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe entered the beast spiritual shield, they disappeared into thin air. Where did they go? Don't tell me that there is another world within the shield. The experts from the other factions hesitated for a moment before they quickly walked toward a golden light crack. Let's follow them, Chu Bei said faintly. The moment the group stepped into the beast spiritual shield, the scene in front of them changed. The lush forest disappeared and was replaced by a desolate plain. The plain was not big, and it was covered with crimson sand. At first glance, it looked as though it had been dyed with blood. If one were to talk about the most special place, it would be the ancient stone altar that was 1,000 feet tall in the middle of the plain. A faintly discernible aura spread out from the altar. Even though they are already dead, they still possess such a frightening aura. Just how strong were they when they were alive? Sensing the frightening aura from the altar that caused their Do Qi to become blocked, the faces of the experts who had entered this place were shocked. Seeing the experts from the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe, who had already ascended the altar, the powerful experts from the human race also quickly flew up to the altar. Chu Bei's group did not fall behind. They descended to the top of the altar and swept their gazes around them. Quickly look. There seems to be something there. At this moment, an elite Dozong seemed to have discovered something and exclaimed. In an instant, a countless number of gazes were thrown in the direction that the Dozong had pointed out. One could see that there was a golden-purple stone platform to the north of the altar. There was a groove that was half a foot in size on the stone platform. There was a small sapling within the groove. It was only the thickness of a thumb, but it was like a huge dragon that was curled up. If one were to carefully look at it, one would see a palm-sized fruit hanging from the top of this small sapling. Its entire body was golden purple. The golden-colored half was like an ancient void dragon that had been shrunk many times as it meandered. The other purple half was a demon phoenix that was spreading its wings and dancing. What kind of fruit is this? Despite my experience, I have never seen it before. There is actually such a strange fruit. While the heads of the experts from the human race were filled with confusion, the faces of the experts from the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe revealed an indescribable excitement when they saw this fruit. It is unexpected that we would be able to find such a treasure on this trip. The beautiful woman from the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe stared intently at the strange fruit and muttered. The Dragon Phoenix Origin Fruit. This was a treasure that only existed in the ancient books of their tribe. This fruit needed to absorb the life force of an ancient void dragon and an ancient heaven phoenix in order to be formed. Moreover, the chances of it appearing was less than 10%. Looking at the records of their tribe, this Dragon Phoenix Origin Fruit had only appeared 4 times. There is no mistake. An ancient void dragon and an ancient heaven phoenix from my tribe had indeed died here at the same time. The old man beside the beautiful woman opened his mouth and said, the human Dozuns present instantly understood the value of the Dragon Phoenix Origin Fruit when they sensed the wild expression on the faces of the experts from the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe. Immediately, their auras rose to their limits. They were prepared to attack at any moment. This belongs to my Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe. Don't tell me that you humans are delusional enough to think that you can get your hands on it. The beautiful woman from the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe knit her brows tightly as she sensed the aura fluctuation of the human experts around her. Her expression became gloomy. What a joke. Since when did the things within the ancient remains have an owner? The rule since ancient times has always been that whoever snatches it owns it. A human Dozun coldly snorted. His body disappeared from the altar after he spoke. However, just as he was about to extend his hand and grab the Dragon Phoenix Origin Fruit, the old man beside the beautiful woman appeared beside him and violently threw a punch forward. That human Dozun hurriedly swung his fist to receive the attack. Bang! An earth-shaking loud sound appeared. The two figures withdrew at the same time. The empty space became distorted and sunk under the frightening aftershock. Numerous crack lines spread into the distance like a spider web. On the other hand, the Dragon Phoenix Origin Fruit was not damaged at all. You humans actually dare to covet the Dragon Phoenix Origin Fruit. All of you should just die here in the territory of my tribe's elders. The beautiful woman from the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe suddenly emitted a cold laugh. An unknown chill rose within the hearts of everyone, including Tang Zhan, Lei the Venerable, and the other experts, when they met the beautiful woman's cold in the forest gaze. The next moment, one could see the beautiful woman once again squeeze out a drop of fresh blood from her fingertip, after which she drew something in the air. In the blink of an eye, a strange and mysterious symbol was formed on the beautiful woman's fingertip. Finally, it floated above the altar. Chapter 138. Rumble. After the beautiful lady from the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe had drawn the strange rune, the ancient altar suddenly shook. Then, a phoenix's cry was heard from the bottom of the altar. Although the phoenix's cry was soft, when it fell into the ears of everyone present, it seemed to be able to hit their souls directly. They could not help but tremble violently. With blood as the contract, with the contract as the rune, awaken the ancestral soul. The beautiful lady glanced coldly at Lei the Venerable, Tang Zhan, Venerable Wind, and the other experts of the human race. Then, she suddenly rose into the air and knelt in front of the ancient altar. As her sincere and respectful voice fell, the rune that was drawn by her blood suddenly burst out a bright light and poured on the ancient altar. Boom! There was a loud bang. On the plain behind the ancient altar, an extremely huge skeleton rose from the ground. That's the skeleton of the Heaven Phoenix that died here. The experts of the human race were shocked. When the skeleton appeared, the experts of the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe knelt in front of it at the same time. They put their palms together as if they were performing some kind of pious ceremony. Under countless gazes, the skeleton of the Heaven Phoenix began to squirm slowly. Almost at the same time, a bleak aura from ancient times quietly spread out. Under the terrifying aura, the experts of the human race felt that the fighting energy in their bodies became more and more blocked. Has the remnant soul of the ancient Heaven Phoenix been awakened? Venerable Acheron's face changed abruptly. The other experts of the human race felt the strength of the aura and their faces turned pale. In the end, the terrifying power from the skeleton's remnant soul gathered behind the beautiful lady and formed an extremely huge shadow of the Heaven Phoenix. Thunder God descends. Lei the Venerable's eyes focused. He did not wait any longer and made the first move. With a loud shout, he stomped his right foot on the ground. Suddenly, tens of thousands of snake-shaped lightning burst out from under his feet and spread out in an instant. Lay the Venerable took a step forward and was less than 100 meters away from the beautiful lady. He used his right hand as a claw, and the snake-shaped lightning under his feet quickly gathered in his palm. Then, he slammed it toward the beautiful lady. Wherever his right palm passed, the glaring lightning caused the void to distort. Sword Venerable was the first to make his move. With a wave of his right hand, an exquisite black long sword appeared in his palm. The long sword waved quickly, and a huge aura quickly condensed on the tip of the sword. As the sword momentum continued to stack, the tip of the sword released a golden sword light that was as dazzling as the sun. Sword Venerable slashed out with his sword, and 100-meter-long sword light streaked across the sky, heading straight for the beautiful woman. The Martial Highness Acheron's attack followed closely behind. A finger of death penetrated the rift and instantly appeared before the beautiful woman. Almost at the same time, the human elite Dozuns unleashed powerful attacks at the beautiful woman. In front of the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe, these human experts stood on the same side. However, just as the attacks of the elite Dozuns from the clan were about to land on the pretty woman's body, two red glows suddenly shot out from the eyes of the slowly wiggling, enormous Heaven Phoenix skeleton. In an instant, the sky seemed to have frozen, and it was deathly silent. The attacks of the human clan experts seemed to be strangled by an invisible force. Then, with a loud bang, all of them disintegrated and crumbled. Seeing this, the elite Dozuns who had attacked frowned. Just as they were about to launch another attack, a bloody light shot out from between the beautiful woman's eyebrows and connected with the Heaven Phoenix illusory figure behind her. Her aura suddenly soared. Die! At this moment, the beautiful woman seemed to have merged with the Heaven Phoenix illusory figure behind her. The beautiful woman raised her lily-white hand, and a majestic golden light shot out from her palm. It carried a terrifying energy that could destroy the heavens and the earth, and it blasted toward Lei Zunjia and the others. The speed of the golden light was so fast that the group of experts could not react in time. Pucci, the originally powerful auras of the group of elite Dozuns clearly fell the moment the golden light swept past them. Their faces turned pale, and fresh blood was spat out from their mouths. Venerable Feng, are you all right? Xiao Yin immediately asked after Venerable Feng flew back to Yao Chen's side. The strength of the Heaven Phoenix soul fragment is much stronger than I had imagined. Venerable Feng wiped off the trace of blood from the corner of his mouth, and immediately threw 2 medicinal pills into his mouth. He tried his best to stabilize his chaotic aura. His eyes were filled with fear when he once again looked at the enormous illusory figure behind the beautiful woman. Among the Dozuns who had attacked earlier, the one who was the most seriously injured was Lei the Venerable, who was the closest to the beautiful woman. Under the heavy attack of the golden light, the thunderbolt under his feet was destroyed. His face was instantly drained of blood, as though his essence blood had been sucked dry. Retreat. Venerable Acheron, Sword Venerable, and the others did not hesitate. They turned around and flew toward the border of the plains. Do you think that you can escape? The beautiful woman's ice-cold voice resounded over the entire plains. The enormous illusory figure behind her trembled slightly. In an instant, the border of the plains lit up with a crimson light. Venerable Acheron and the others, who were about to return to the outside world, were blocked by the crimson light before they could cross the border. After several futile attacks, Venerable Acheron, Sword Venerable, and the others returned to the top of the ancient altar. Their faces were gloomy. Trespassing into the tomb of my clan's ancestor. All of you must die. The beautiful woman's eyes swept across Lei the Venerable, Sword Venerable, and the others. Her eyes were filled with killing intent. However, the beautiful woman was not in a hurry to attack again. Instead, she extended her palm, and a crimson palm print extended out, grabbing the Dragon Phoenix origin fruit above the stone platform. However, just as the crimson palm print was about to grab the Dragon Phoenix origin fruit, a fist print with 5 colored flames swept across. Boom! There was a loud, dull sound. The 5 colored flame fist print directly shattered the crimson palm print. I don't care who you want to kill, but you're in the wrong if you touch my things. A calm voice abruptly sounded from the field. Whoosh! Upon hearing the voice, the group of clan's experts focused their attention on Chu Bei. Seeing the person who spoke, Lay the Venerable, Sword Venerable, and the others, all the experts who knew or had dealt with Chu Bei had strange expressions on their faces. Your things? The beautiful woman looked at Chu Bei with disdain in her eyes. She snorted, You're courting death. As the voice of cold in the forest, which was filled with killing intent, fell, the beautiful woman clenched her right fist. The enormous shadow behind her trembled, and a dazzling, majestic golden light gathered in her palm again. The expressions of Lei Zunjia, Jian Zunjia, and the others immediately changed when they sensed the aura that was even more frightening than before. Do Qi covered the surface of their bodies as they left the battlefield without any hesitation, flying toward the edge of the plains. The golden light was terrifying, and they were greatly affected. As for Chu Bei, he did not dodge the golden light that could make several Do Zuns retreat. He slowly raised his arm, and his palm faced the enormous shadow behind the beautiful woman. Looking at it, a thumb-sized black bead floated in Chu Bei's palm. The beautiful woman waved her palm, and a majestic golden light instantly spread and swept across the void. Chu Bei's expression did not change, and he still looked forward calmly. Almost at the same time, the black bead in his palm let out a strange buzzing sound, and then a deathly black light surged out. In an instant, the entire battlefield seemed to have fallen into darkness. Everything in the void collapsed. A huge, pitch-black hole that was dozens of feet wide appeared in front of Chu Bei. The darkness was as deep as the 9 Serenities' hell, and one look at it would make one's heart tremble. Chi-Chi. Before the majestic golden light could touch Chu Bei, it was swallowed by the pitch-black hole. Seeing this scene, the brows of the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe were tightly knit. However, before she could react, hundreds and thousands of black lines surged out from the pitch-black hole and swarmed toward her from all directions. More accurately, they were pouncing toward the Heaven Phoenix remnant soul behind her. Under the countless shocked gazes of the experts from the human race and the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe, these black lines instantly wrapped around the Heaven Phoenix remnant soul. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Amidst the ear-piercing sound, these black lines began to shrink. Following this, the Heaven Phoenix remnant soul began to shake intensely, and the enormous shadow gradually collapsed, or it could be said that it was being eaten by the black lines. Why is it like this? What have you done? Seeing this scene, the beautiful woman from the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe revealed a terrified expression. Poochie. When the enormous shadow was completely swallowed by the black lines, a paleness surged onto the beautiful woman's face. A mouthful of purple gold blood was spat out, and her powerful aura became incomparably weak. Clearly, after connecting with the Heaven Phoenix remnant soul through a secret technique, the latter disappeared, and the beautiful woman also suffered a backlash. At this moment, the hundreds and thousands of black lines once again disappeared into the pitch-black hole in front of Chu Bei, and the crimson light at the boundary of the plain shattered and disappeared. Following this, the pitch-black hole began to shrink, and it gathered toward the black bead in Chu Bei's palm. Seeing that the Heaven Phoenix remnant soul had disappeared, Lei the Venerable and Sword Venerable, who were far away, returned to the battlefield. Let's go. The 2 elders from the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe, who were also Do Zuns, looked at the Dragon Phoenix origin fruit unwillingly, and they quickly left while supporting the weak, beautiful woman. Chu Bei ignored the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe that had escaped, and he extended his hand to grab the Dragon Phoenix origin fruit on the stone table. Although the experts from the human race saw Chu Bei's action, no one dared to stop him, and they allowed him to take the Dragon Phoenix origin fruit. The system has successfully retrieved the Dragon Phoenix origin fruit. After evaluation, the host has received 2 million willpower. After successfully retrieving the Dragon Phoenix origin fruit, the system's voice sounded. Boss Chu, are we just going to let them go like this? Xiao Yin pointed in the direction where the experts from the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe had disappeared. Since we have obtained the item, nothing else matters, Chu Bei replied faintly. The black bead that he had used earlier was called the Soul Devouring Bead. Although it was only a level 9 product, Its ability to devour souls was enough to easily subdue a wandering Do Sheng soul, let alone a Do Zun. Boss Chu, thank you for your help. Sword Venerable, Acheron, and the other experts from the human race stepped forward and cupped their fists toward Chu Bei. If he had not intervened, and the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe had used the Heaven Phoenix Remnant Soul, they would not have been able to escape this calamity. It was also because they had once again seen Chu Bei attack that their respect for Chu Bei increased. Even a Do Shang class Remnant Soul was unable to do anything to the other party. After thanking him, the experts from the human race bade farewell to Chu Bei. They were not willing to travel with Chu Bei. After all, wherever he was, all the opportunities would not have anything to do with them. After a while, Chu Bei and the rest left the Crimson Plains, and they continued to fly toward the palace in the middle of the Sea of Bones. After returning to the Sea of Bones, along the way, there were sounds of intense battles coming from the buildings of various sizes. There were even some roars of magical beasts. Obviously, regardless of whether it was the experts from the human race or the magical beasts, they were all fighting for various opportunities. 15 minutes later, Chu Bei and the rest finally arrived in the sky above the Crimson Palace. As they looked over, they saw that the door of the palace was tightly shut, and there was a strange black fog surrounding it. In front of the door, there were hundreds of experts gathered together, and it was very noisy. With just a few glances, Chu Bei saw some familiar faces, including the experts from the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe, Sword Venerable, Lei the Venerable, Acheron, and the rest. These experts also noticed Chu Bei's arrival. The eyes of the experts from the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe were filled with unconcealable hatred, while the faces of Sword Venerable and the rest were filled with helplessness. Along the way, they did not stop, as they wanted to search the central palace before Chu Bei arrived. Unexpectedly, the latter flew directly over. In this way, if there were really rare treasures in the palace, they could only look on helplessly. Old Sword, why don't you go in? Lei the Venerable looked at Sword Venerable, pointed at the Crimson Palace, and said with a smile, I can still wait a little longer. Sword Venerable pointed at the strange black fog around the palace, which was slowly dispersing. The black fog made their hearts palpitate. Under the premise that they could not guarantee their safety, they would rather wait a little longer, for the black fog to disperse on its own. Under countless anxious gazes, the strange black fog finally dissipated completely after a period of time. Boom! Just as the experts were about to push open the door of the palace, there was a rumbling sound from the door. Then, with a creaking sound, the door of the palace slowly opened. Looking in from the outside, it was pitch black. Then, there was another sound from the door. It was similar to the sound of cicadas, but it was deeper. Hearing the voice from inside the door, the group of experts stopped in their tracks again. Suddenly, countless pairs of green eyes lit up in the darkness of the palace. Although their eyes were small, they were densely packed, and they started to surge out of the door. That's the ancient devouring worm. Some experts recognized the creatures in the palace, and their expressions changed. As they screamed, fear appeared on their faces. The ancient devouring insects had disappeared and only existed in the records of ancient books. An adult ancient devouring insect had 2 antennae on its head, and its strength had reached rank 7. It devoured flesh, blood, bones, and was cruel by nature. Creak, creak, creak. When the door opened, the ancient devouring insects in the palace seemed to have regained their freedom. When they saw the many experts outside the door, the ancient devouring insects appeared to have not eaten fresh blood for many years. Their originally green eyes were instantly filled with a blood-red color. The ancient devouring insects flew out from the chirping sound, and a black mass pounced at the experts in front of the palace from all directions. Run! Seeing the ancient devouring insects attacking them, the experts below the Do Zone class did not hesitate to turn around and fly into the distance. Those below the 5-star Do Zone class only moved back a little and agglomerated their Do Chi armor at the same time. As for the Do Zones above the 5-star, especially the elite Do Zuns, their faces remained calm. Chapter 139. These ancient devouring insects that flew out from the hall pounced on those practitioners who had fled far away after discovering that they were unable to pose a threat to experts above the 5-star dozong rank. Those who flew slower than the ancient devouring insects were quickly devoured by them amidst sharp, miserable cries. The appearance of the ancient devouring insects also caused the number of experts in front of the hall to decrease by 80%. Seeing that there were no longer any ancient devouring insects flying out from the door, a 7-star dozong was finally unable to restrain himself. He rose into the air and flew into the hall. The other experts also flew into the hall after seeing that the 7-star dozong had safely entered the hall. After passing through the door of the hall, the interior walls were a copper-yellow color. Countless years had caused this kind of copper-yellow color to appear even deeper, emitting an ancient aura. When Chu Bei's group entered the hall, the interior of the hall had already lit up with a hazy fluorescent light. Although they were unable to clearly see everything within the hall, they could vaguely see the layout of the hall. While the experts were observing their surroundings, 10 glaring light clusters suddenly lit up in the middle of the hall. These light clusters floated in the air. Each light cluster contained a scroll. The eyes of the experts gathered on the 10 light clusters with a swoosh sound. Their expressions became excited when they saw the scrolls within them. Bang! An elite dozun extended his hand without hesitation and grabbed a scroll nearby. However, before he could touch the scroll, he was forced back by an incomparably powerful force from the light cluster. Don't be too anxious. The seal has yet to be removed. Another elite dozun coldly laughed. The seal of an elite dozhong is not something that can be broken with brute force. Let's wait for it to disappear on its own. After witnessing the strength of the seal, the experts in the hall could only pay attention to the 10 light clusters while continuing to observe the hall. Soon, a couple of gazes landed on a stone chair. One could see a jade-white skeleton on the stone chair. The skeleton's hands formed a seal as it sat cross-legged. Don't tell me that this is the owner of this ancient remains? The skeleton of an elite dozhong. The experts involuntarily inhaled a deep breath of air as they looked at the complete skeleton on the stone chair. The closer they were to the skeleton, the more they could sense the frightening pressure gathered on the surface of the skeleton. This pressure was even stronger than the pressure coming from the ancient altar inside the beast's spiritual barrier. Were they followers of this elite dozhong when they were alive, or were they captured by him? The appearance of the 10 balls of light made the hall much brighter. The group of experts also saw a figure appearing on the wall at regular intervals. These figures were entirely the color of lime, and their eyes were tightly shut, like stone statues. Ever since we entered the ruins, we still haven't seen anyone from Seoul Palace. Did they not come? Yao Lao furrowed his brows. But according to what I know, there have been factions that have seen Seoul Palace experts appear at the edge of the basin, Venerable Wind said. That's even stranger. Yao Lao's eyes were filled with confusion. Buzz buzz. Suddenly, there was a trembling sound in the hall. In the center of the hall, the 10 balls of light on the scrolls began to shake violently. Then, with a uniform explosion, the balls of light exploded. Almost at the same time, the scrolls and the 10 balls of light flew out in all directions. The group of experts were stunned for a moment before they let out an excited exclamation after reacting. In the next moment, a couple of powerful auras erupted at the same time. Numerous figures rushed toward the 10 balls of light with lightning-like speed. It was also at this moment that the stone statue-like figures within the wall suddenly opened their eyes that had been tightly shut for a countless number of years. A dense, murderous aura spread. After these stone figures woke up, their bodies flashed and appeared in the crowd that was fighting over the scrolls. Bang! One of the stone figures attacked the person closest to him. As a frightening energy ripple spread, the physical body of the 7-star dozong that was struck by the stone figure exploded along with his spirit. His chest was a bloody mess and his life force was instantly gone. Alive! They are all alive. No, they should have been made into puppets. The expressions of the experts changed drastically when they saw the stone puppets that had suddenly joined the battlefield and were killing ferociously. These stone puppets were incomparably powerful. Each of them had the strength of a 2-star dozun. In the hall, veteran dozuns like Tang Jun, venerable wind, and Acheron could easily deal with the stone puppets. Those whose strength was comparable to the stone puppets or were weaker than them were clearly in a much more dangerous situation. The stone puppets had no emotions. Every time they used a killing move, it was as if they were completing some kind of mission. There were also stone puppets that appeared beside Chu Bei. However, they were sent flying by Chu Bei's punch. In the intense chaotic battle, people as strong as Tang Zhen, venerable wind, and the others managed to snatch a scroll one after another. The experts from the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe and the Nine Abyss Deep Ground Python tribe of the Demon Beast tribe also managed to snatch a scroll each. As for Chu Bei, he naturally obtained a scroll too. Moreover, he obtained it very easily. When Tang Zhen, venerable wind, and the others managed to snatch a scroll, other Dozuns would fight for it. However, after Chu Bei obtained a scroll, no Dozuns came to fight for it. Looking back at the stone puppets, they were crazily attacking the experts in the hall. People as strong as Tang Zhen and the others were not afraid of these puppets. However, the experts below the 2 stars Dozun level could only temporarily avoid the attack and retreat from the hall. Not long after, the number of experts in the hall decreased by another 80%. Only experts above the 2 stars Dozun level were left. What level of Qi methods or Do skills did you obtain? Sword Venerable swept his gaze across the experts and asked after knocking back a stone puppet with a punch. Earth rank middle level. Earth rank low level. Earth rank middle level. The group of Dozuns waved the scrolls in their hands. Even the experts from the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe and the Nine Abyss Deep Ground Python tribe pointed at the 2 eye-catching words Earth rank on the scroll. How can they all be Earth rank? It is impossible for a Do Shang to not have a Heaven rank Qi method or Do skill. The Dozuns in the hall frowned. At their level, the Earth rank was no longer attractive to them. What they needed was a higher level Heaven rank. Following which, the group of Dozuns could not help but look at Chu Bei. Among the 10 scrolls, only the scroll in the other party's hand was of unknown rank. Boss Chu, we are just curious. May I know? It is also Earth rank. Meeting everyone's gaze, without waiting for Sword Venerable to finish speaking, Chu Bei flashed the 2 words Earth rank on the scroll. Then, he put away the scroll. The system looks back. Earth rank high-level Do skill Nirvana Palm successful. After evaluation, the host has received 500,000 willpower. The system's voice sounded. No, there must be a Heaven rank Do skill here. The group of Dozuns looked at each other and seemed to have thought of something. At the same time, they looked at the complete skeleton of the Do Shang on the stone pedestal. When the group of Dozuns flew to the front of the stone pedestal, the lime puppets that were attacking endlessly seemed to be in awe and only dared to stand far away. Gradually, the group of Dozuns surrounded the skeleton and carefully sized it up as if they were trying to find something. Look, there are small words on the leg bone. Suddenly, a 2 stars Dozun exclaimed. On the leg bone of his finger, there were 2 small words that were exposed. If one did not look carefully, they would not be able to notice it. After getting over his excitement, the 2 stars Dozun directly reached out to grab the leg bone. However, just as his palm touched the leg bone, before he could flip it over, 2 bone spikes suddenly rose from the leg bone and directly pierced through his palm. Pain came from his palm, and the 2 stars Dozun hurriedly retracted his hand. However, some of the blood from the wound had already dripped onto the leg bone with the 2 small words. Under the gaze of the group of Dozuns, the blood slowly seeped into the leg bone. Not good. Retreat. An extremely uneasy feeling rose in the group of Dozuns when they saw the blood being absorbed by the skeleton. In the next moment, they sensed that the skeleton in front of them, which had been dead for an unknown number of years, had once again shown signs of life. Just as the group of Dozuns retreated to the center of the hall, the jade-white skeleton that was originally sitting cross-legged suddenly stood up. 2 threads of heart-palpitating red light shot out from its hollow eyes. Immediately after, an earth-shattering roar burst out from the skeleton's mouth like a sudden clap of thunder. The group of Dozuns immediately used their Do Qi to cover their bodies and block the frightening sound wave from the skeleton's roar. 3 of the bones have words imprinted on them. They must be Tian-class chi methods or Do techniques. After the skeleton stood up, the Do Zuns in the hall finally saw the complete body of the skeleton. 3 of the bones were densely packed with words. Everyone, this skeleton is only relying on the spiritual imprint of the elite Do Sheng and our blood to temporarily possess life. As long as we join hands, it will not be difficult to defeat it. The sword venerable glanced at the skeleton before sweeping his gaze over the remaining experts in the hall and said, "Since this is the case, we will first scatter it before taking its bones. As for who gets the Tian-class chi method in the end, it will depend on our ability." Perhaps it was because they were afraid of the Do Sheng skeleton, but the group of Do Zuns in the hall unanimously formed a temporary alliance. The red glow in the eyes of the Do Sheng skeleton on the stone chair was revealed on the sword venerable's body. The vast and mighty Do Chi in its body immediately erupted like a volcano. Its might was frightening. Seeing the Do Sheng skeleton rushing over while carrying a vast and mighty Do Chi, the sword venerable danced with the long sword in his hand. He took a step forward and layers of sharp sword glow stacked on top of each other. It faced the Do Sheng skeleton. Almost at the same time, lay the venerable, Acheron, Tangjin, Venerable Wind, and the other elite Do Zuns also made their moves. "Count me in as well." Chu Bei's words carried a smile. A cluster of 5-colored fire lotus appeared on his palm. The fire lotus rotated, and the temperature in the hall instantly rose. It smashed toward the Do Sheng skeleton together with the attacks of the other Do Zuns. Bang! Before the skeleton's attack landed, countless terrifying elite Do Zuns attacks struck the body of the skeleton first. A couple of powerful attacks exploded at the same time, carrying a continuous explosion sound. Crack, crack. Amidst a clear and pleasant sound, the joints of the skeleton exploded and transformed into many scattered bones. Seeing this scene, the elite Do Zuns in the hall did not hesitate to make their moves. They grabbed at the 3 bones with the words on them. Chapter 140. I'll take one. You guys can fight for the rest. Chu Bei's smiling voice sounded in the palace. Wherever his figure passed, the 5-colored flame burned fiercely. Feeling the terrifying aura contained in the flame, the group of honorables avoided it. They could only watch as Chu Bei took the lead and obtained a leg bone. Fortunately, what made them feel a little better was that the other party had indeed only taken 1 leg bone. Looking at the blank space left on the 3 bones, it was obvious that they were 3 independent fighting techniques or chi methods. In other words, if Chu Bei took one, there were still 2 left for them to fight for. Of course, no one in the palace coveted the leg bone that Chu Bei had already obtained. After all, everyone present knew how powerful Chu Bei was. The system successfully recovered the Heaven-class middle-level fighting technique, Great Heaven Creation Palm. After evaluation, it is worth 2 million willpower. The host has obtained the remaining upper limit, 1,500,000 willpower. As Chu Bei had already obtained 3,500,000 willpower, and the upper limit of the recovery was 5 million, even if the Great Heaven Creation Palm was worth 2 million, he could only obtain 1,500,000 willpower. Boom! In the palace, the powerful auras of the group of honorables burst forth almost at the same time. As their figures flashed, various powerful fighting techniques emerged one after another. The 2 pieces of bones with small words printed on them kept changing owners. Anyone who obtained them would immediately be surrounded by the group until the bones were handed over. For a time, among the strong people in the palace, only Chu Bei had successfully obtained a piece of bone. Gradually, the intense battle shifted from inside the palace to outside the palace. Under the temptation of the Heaven-class fighting technique, there was no distinction between human and beast. Other than oneself, everyone else was an enemy. Look, they are fighting over there. They are all elite Do Zuns. What are they fighting for? It looks like 2 pieces of bones. Needless to say, it must be the treasure of the ancient ruins. According to my guess, it must be related to the Heaven-class fighting technique. I wonder who will get it in the end. As time passed, more and more strong people gathered around the Crimson Palace. Some stayed in the nearby forest, while others floated in the sky not far away. Their eyes were fixed on the two pieces of bones in the battlefield. Although their eyes were burning, they could only watch from the side. They could not participate in the battle between honorables. Rumble. Just as the strong people watching the battle were engrossed in watching, the ground under their feet suddenly shook violently. There were continuous sonic booms in the surrounding void. What's going on? Is the ruins going to disappear? Impossible. The ancient ruins that appeared in the past have always been there. I've never heard of any ruins disappearing after they appeared. What's going on? The entire ruins are shaking. Could it be that this is a backup plan left behind by the owner of the ruins? Look around. Where did the black fog come from? There's a familiar aura. The strong people stabilized their bodies or flew into the sky. Their faces were filled with confusion. It was not just the surroundings of the Crimson Palace. The entire remains within the sea of bones were shaking intensely. Some places had even cracked open deep gullies. The group of Zoons above the palace, who were fighting intensely for the two pieces of bones, slowed their attacks because of this sudden commotion. They faced each other. Clearly, even they were unaware of what was happening in the remains. There are so many powerful spirits. Looks like we have a great harvest this time around. Just as the strong people were guessing the reason for the sudden shaking of the remains, a strange laughter that caused one's scalp to turn numb transformed into a sharp sound wave that spread out from the Crimson Palace. Tangjun, Venerable Wind, Sword Venerable, and the others had a sudden change in expression when they heard this laughter. Immediately, the empty space above the Crimson Palace split open and formed a gap in front of a couple of gazes. A large amount of black fog surged out from the gap. A figure gradually agglomerated within the black fog. Hall of Souls. Killing intent instantly surged out from Yao Chen's eyes when he saw the familiar appearance method. The other experts around the palace had clearly guessed the identity of the person who had arrived. All of them frowned, and their faces were filled with a solemn expression. The expressions of the experts from the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe and the 9 Serene Deep Ground Python also became ugly when they heard the name Hall of Souls. The name Hall of Souls was something that they were familiar with even within their beast region. At this moment, the appearance of the other party would undoubtedly cause the originally chaotic situation to become even more complicated. Their hopes of obtaining the Tian-class Do technique of the human race had become increasingly slimmer. The black fog surged and the black figure within it became increasingly real until it was completely revealed. This was a skinny old man wearing grayish-white clothes. The most obvious characteristic of the old man was the 2 scars on his shriveled face. Old Ghost Jai Xing, Tangjun, Sword Venerable, Acheron Zun, and the other experts recognized the skinny old man and immediately revealed the latter's identity. TSK, it is unexpected that all of you have come. Such a large number of powerful souls. We have really not wasted everything that we have done. Old Ghost Jai Xing placed both of his hands behind his back. His gaze swept over the experts around him. A dark and cold smile hung on the corner of his mouth. What has your Hall of Souls done again? Don't tell me that the activity in the remains is caused by all of you. Old Ghost Jai Xing's words immediately caused the eyes of the experts present to reveal a disgusted expression. During these few years, the actions of the Hall of Souls had become increasingly frequent. Capturing souls from all over the place was no longer something rare in the Central Plains. Almost all the factions present had experts who had been captured by the Hall of Souls. However, it was just that the headquarters and branches of the Hall of Souls were incomparably hidden. Additionally, the other party's strength was frightening, and no one dared to go against them. Are you intending to become enemies with all of us here by saying these words? You are merely a 5-star Dozun. Do you think that you can deal with all of us by yourself? Tang Jin coldly looked at Old Ghost Jai Xing. Ever since the members of the Hall of Souls had attacked Elder Chihua from his burning flame valley, he had been feeling furious towards the Hall of Souls. I am not alone. Old Ghost Jai Xing looked at Tang Jin. After his mocking voice sounded, he waved his hand and a large amount of black fog spread apart. Rumble, rumble. It was also at this moment that the entire remains shook even more intensely. An increasing number of gullies began to appear. At a glance, The experts who were originally still searching for opportunities within the various large buildings within the remains flew into the air one after another. In merely a couple of breaths' time, the area above the remains was filled with a black mass. All of them were experts above the Dowang class. What exactly is going on? The faces of these experts were at a loss. Amidst their confused voices, they threw their gazes towards the direction of the bright red hall in the middle. I keep feeling that the situation is not good. Since we have already obtained the treasure, this trip is not in vain. In that case, let's withdraw first. A portion of the experts within the remains, who were already satisfied with the opportunity in their hands, wanted to leave. However, just as they flew to the edge of the remains and were about to leave, a thin layer of black light film rose from the edge of the remains. Not only that, there would be a black figure appearing every certain distance. They were all people from the Hall of Souls. After recognizing the identity of these black figures, the experts who had already arrived at the edge of the remains immediately descended into a stunned state. After recovering, they hurriedly unleashed an attack towards the black light film. However, even though they had unleashed their strongest attack, they were unable to cause the slightest substantial damage to the black light film. In front of their shocked gazes, the thousands of experts from the Hall of Souls, who had successfully spread out at the edge of the remains, formed a group of complicated seals with their hands at the same time. Soon after, one could see that the black light film that covered the entire remains began to shrink towards the middle at a frightening speed. The experts from the human race and the beast race, who were originally scattered all over, had no choice but to pull back under the black light film that was continuously shrinking. They moved closer to the middle region. Witnessing this scene, the expressions of the experts around the bright red hall became increasingly solemn and ugly. The experts who had entered the ancient remains this time around were all at the Dowang class or above. Their numbers were over 50% of the experts in the Central Plains. No wonder there was news earlier that people from the Hall of Souls were seen. However, after the remains opened, all of you were nowhere to be seen. So all of you have been secretly plotting. You have really put in a lot of effort. Venerable Wind stared at old ghost Zhai Xing with an expressionless face. The killing intent within his eyes became increasingly sharp. It is indeed a little troublesome. However, from the looks of it now, everything is extremely worth it. Old ghost Zhai Xing's eyes swept over everyone. His words carried a gloating tone. With the flow of time, the area covered by the black light film became increasingly small. The number of experts around the bright red hall also increased. Countless number of experts gathered together. The figures in the sky faced one another in a densely packed manner. Enjoy the big gift that my Hall of Souls has prepared for all of you. After old ghost Zhai Xing's sinister voice sounded, 1, 2 or 3 soul chains were more or less extended from the backs of the thousands of experts from the Hall of Souls who were scattered around the edge of the black light film. They were different from ordinary soul chains. These soul chains appeared to have been prepared in advance for some kind of ancient ceremony. Thousands of soul chains that were exactly the same interweaved in the distant sky above the bright red hall. Finally, they formed a 10,000 feet large 9-cornered formation. Various mysterious symbols were accompanied by a dense black chi as they danced rhythmically on the 9-cornered formation. Just what is the Hall of Souls planning to do? A terrified expression surfaced on the faces of the countless number of experts in the sky as they looked at the 9-cornered formation that was formed above them. Their instincts vaguely told them that danger was repeatedly approaching. Bang! A loud sound appeared, and the 9-cornered formation shook intensely. It appeared to possess life. First, it trembled for a while before emitting a large amount of black fog. By the time the black fog scattered, it appeared to have evolved. An enormous dark black pupil appeared at the position of the formation eye. The pupil rotated, carrying waves of rubbing sounds, following which a fierce, wild, and violent terrifying aura spread apart. This is really troublesome. Sword Venerable, Tang Zhan, Acheron Zunzun, and the rest of the experts were unable to continue remaining calm as they sensed the frightening energy ripple emitted from the 9-cornered formation. All of their expressions became incomparably solemn. As for those experts who were merely Do Wangs and Do Huangs, who had come to try their luck, they had already curled up while shivering. They had descended into a panic. Chapter 141. Following the shrinking of the black light film within the ancient remains, an increasing number of people began to gather towards the central region. The faces of the experts who were already at the central region were all filled with shock as they watched the nine-corner large formation that was agglomerated from the strength of over 1,000 experts from the gathering Soul Hall. Even people as strong as Tang Jian, Zun Acheron, Sword Venerable, and the others also had grave expressions on their faces. Screech. Suddenly, the nine-corner formation swayed. A strange screech that seemed to have originated from hell was emitted from the dark black pupils of the formation eye and resounded over the top of the bright red palace. The sound wave that caused one's scalp to turn numb spread far and wide across the entire ancient remains. The empty space shook until it emitted a shattering sound. At this moment, the nine-corner formation was just like a primitive living creature that had just awoken from its slumber. The screech carried a heart-palpitating cruelty and brutality that was filled with endless destruction and massacre. The source of the sound represented the most terrifying calamity in the world. Boss Chu, what are they trying to do? Xiao Yin pointed at the nine-corner formation above his head, looked at Chu Bei, and inquired. Other than collecting souls, do the people from the Hall of Souls have any other hobbies? The corner of Chu Bei's mouth was lifted into a smile. Once he said this, Chu Bei continued to lift his eyes to look at the formation lines in the sky whose aura was becoming increasingly frightening. Compared to the seriousness of Sword Venerable and Zun Acheron, Chu Bei appeared incomparably calm. Everyone, let's go. At this moment, a hoarse voice that was filled with coldness was emitted from old ghost Zhai Xing's mouth. In the next instant, a beam of black light shot out from the dark black pupils in the middle of the nine-corner formation and landed at a spot where the experts were gathered. Clang, 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 hundreds of chains shot out from within the black light. These chains appeared to have their own consciousness. Each of them pierced towards an expert. Their speed was so fast that it caused one's hair to stand on end. Ah! Immediately, a sharp, miserable shriek sounded. The experts that were gathered together did not have the time to dodge before they were pierced by the chains and pierced into their bodies. The person with the highest strength among these experts had already reached the 7th star of the Dozone class. However, he did not have the slightest ability to resist in front of these symbol chains. I can't use my power anymore. How could this be? I feel my life slipping away. No, don't. After being pierced by the rune chains, the group of experts instantly discovered that the power in their bodies had been sealed. In addition, they also felt their life force being sucked away bit by bit. Their souls seemed to be hooked by an invisible force and were about to leave their bodies. Looking at the painful expressions on the faces of those who had been pierced by the chains, the other experts became even more terrified. Qi. The pitch-black pupil in the center of the nine-cornered formation shot out a beam of black light again, landing in the direction of another group of experts. A similar scene played out again. Amidst the panic, hundreds of experts were pierced through by the chains, wailing in agony. Qi, qi, qi. After the second black light beam, the third, fourth, and fifth light beams shot out from the pitch-black pupil in the center of the nine-sided formation. Hundreds of black chains extended out from these beams of light and pierced towards the experts in the air. In just a few breaths, over 1,000 experts had been pierced through by the chains. I can't stay here anymore. The experts around the Crimson Palace became more and more terrified, and they all flew back. None of you will be able to escape. Old Ghost Zhai Xing swept his gaze across the experts who were fleeing in all directions, his eyes filled with disdain. As Old Ghost Zhai Xing's dense and cold voice sounded, a couple of black light beams once again shot out from the dark black pupils that hung high in the sky. Their speed was so quick that they arrived in the vicinity of those escaping experts in an instant. Even though they were thousands of meters away, these experts still couldn't escape the fate of being pierced through by the chains. Old Ghost Zhai Xing, is your Hall of Souls going to become enemies with all the forces in the central region? Tang Zhen, Lei the Venerable, Honorable Acheron and the others exchanged glances. After communicating with their eyes, they made a unanimous decision. They would deal with old ghost Zhaixing first, before snatching the skeleton. Tang Zhen and the others looked at old ghost Zhaixing at the same time, their eyes cold. Chi. Another black light beam shot out from the nine-cornered formation and landed in the surroundings of Tang Zhen and the others. However, the might of the chains within the black light beam was clearly a little lacking in front of Tang Zhen and the others. Many chains pierced through the void with a frightening momentum. However, they were unable to even pierce through the Douqi armors of Tang Zhen and the others. All of you are no match for me. Old Ghost Zhaixing's gaze swept across Tang Zhen and the others. After his cold laughter sounded, he turned his head to look at a direction. His expression suddenly became incomparably respectful. Sir Saint, it is your turn to attack. Hearing the words from Old Ghost Zhaixing's mouth and observing the other party's actions, the expressions of Tang Zhen and the others suddenly changed. Subsequently, all of their gazes involuntarily looked towards the direction that Old Ghost Zhaixing was facing. After Old Ghost Zhaixing's words sounded, a ripple appeared in the void in front of him. A figure slowly walked out from the ripple. This was an old man with a stooped figure. His hand held a skeleton walking stick. His sunken eyes flickered with two clusters of faint green light, giving one a kind of sinister and strange feeling. The entire empty space seemed to have descended into silence the moment he appeared. However, this deathly silence had only lasted for a couple of seconds when a wave of terrifying, suffocating energy ripple was emitted from the body of the stooped old man. Compared to the ancient Heaven Phoenix soul fragment and the Do Sheng skeleton, the pressure that the stooped old man carried was even more substantial. It caused one to have the impulse to kneel and kowtow. Do Elite Do Sheng. Sensing this aura fluctuation that was far above them, Tang Zhen, Lei the Venerable and the others involuntarily took 2 steps back. Their eyes were filled with caution. Unlike the soul fragment and skeleton, this stooped old man in front of them was a living elite Do Sheng. Zhaixing, you have done very well this time around. You did not disappoint me. St. Guyu glanced indifferently at Old Ghost Zhaixing. He nodded slightly, and his words carried some praise. Old Ghost Zhaixing revealed a joyous face. After which, he pointed towards Tang Zhen and the others and said, "However, these fellows are still a little troublesome to me. I can only hope that you will intervene." "I," St. Guyu softly replied. After which, he looked at Tang Zhen, Acheron and the others with an expressionless face. He raised his right hand and gently slammed it downwards. However, it was this seemingly inconspicuous palm that caused the empty space to collapse. 1,000 feet large energy palm swept out. Sensing the frightening aura within the energy palm, Tang Zhen, Acheron, Sword Venerable, and the rest of the Do Zuns, who had fought for the Do Sheng skeleton earlier, attacked at the same time. They did not hold back and directly used their strongest killing moves. Bang! The couple of attacks that Tang Zhen and the others had unleashed collided with the energy palm. An apocalyptic aftershock exploded and spread above the bright red hall. St. Guyu did not move even a little during the collision. However, Tang Zhen, Lei the Venerable, and the others emitted a muffled groan. Other than their faces becoming pale, their bodies also staggered back by a couple of meters. How powerful! Is this a Do Sheng? Fighting against dozens of Do Zuns by himself, and still having the upper hand. The experts around the bright red hall who had witnessed this scene revealed shocked faces. Too weak. St. Guyu looked at Tang Zhen and the others with disdain and shook his head. Hearing St. Guyu's words, the expressions of Tang Zhen and the others became increasingly ugly. In just one exchange, they had personally experienced the gap between a Do Zun and a Do Sheng. Although it appeared that there was only a gap of 1 level, there was an insurmountable gap. Sir Saint, I am a member of the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe. I have no intention of becoming enemies with the Hall of Souls. I even have the intention of befriending the Hall of Souls. May I know if Sir will allow us to leave? Sir Saint, we are from the 9 Serene Deep Ground Python tribe. We have also heard of the Hall of Souls and have the intention of befriending it. At this moment, the Do Zuns from the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe, and the 9 serene deep-ground python tribe bowed to St. Gu Yu. No one in the remains will be able to leave. All of you are no exception. St. Gu Yu glanced at the experts from the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe and the 9 serene deep-ground python tribe. His indifferent voice did not contain the slightest emotion. The experts from the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe frowned when they heard this. Are you not afraid that my tribe will take revenge? Why? Are you threatening the old me? St. Gu Yu's green eyes stared at the expert from the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe. His hoarse voice was filled with a sharp, murderous intent. The skeleton walking stick in St. Gu Yu's hand shook after his voice sounded. In an instant, rolling black fog surged out and swiftly spread across half the sky. Under St. Gu Yu's control, the black fog swiftly agglomerated into a 10,000 feet large black skeleton. The black skeleton stood in the sky. A red glow landed on the expert from the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe and threw a punch forward. At the same time, a dark and cold pressure swept out from within the skeleton's body. At this moment, even the souls of people as strong as Tang Zhun, Zun Acheron, and the others felt as though their souls were in a cold pool. Bang! The Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe elite Do Zun did not have the strength to resist the punch from the black skeleton. The scales on his body instantly shattered. He reverted to his original body and was violently smashed into the ground. There was an additional fear in the eyes of Tang Zhan's group when they saw the black skeleton that St. Gu Yu had summoned. While the attention of the experts present was focused on St. Gu Yu, the first batch of 100 experts that were pierced by the chains began to struggle wildly. The miserable cries from their mouths caused one's heart to tremble. In just a few seconds, the 100 powerhouses stopped moving and lost consciousness. Under the gaze of the others, they saw the chains slowly dragging the souls of the 100 experts out of their bodies. After the first batch, the second batch, the third batch, the fourth batch, the scene descended into chaos as more and more experts were pierced by the chains and lost consciousness and their souls were being pulled out. However, as the black light film continued to shrink, the area that they could move in became smaller and smaller. The pitch-black pupils in the 9-sided formation in the sky continued to shoot out black light beams. Don't tell me that we're going to die here today? Those damn fellows from the Hall of Souls. Even if we turn into ghosts, we won't let them off. We really shouldn't have come to the ancient remains this time. Who would have thought that we would die in the hands of the Hall of Souls instead of dying in the ancient remains? The group of experts looked at the approaching black light film while guarding against the chains that could pierce them at any time. Their faces were filled with unwillingness. Chi. A black light beam landed behind Qing Lin. Several chains extended from the light beam and pierced toward the little doctor, Qing Lin, Xiao Yin, and the others. Chu Bei made his move. 5 colored flames burned fiercely and instantly burned the chains into nothingness. The All Heavens Marketplace will be open tomorrow. The system will provide the goods. The sale will last for 1 day. The host has obtained 1/20th of the willpower. After destroying several more chains, Chu Bei was stunned by the system's voice that suddenly rang in his sea of consciousness. After reading the introduction of the All Heavens Marketplace, the corners of Chu Bei's mouth curled up. At this moment, above the Crimson Palace, St. Gu Yu controlled the black skeleton to attack Tang Zhun, Sword Venerable Acheron, and the others. Bang, bang, bang. Even though Tang Zhin and several other Do Zuns joined forces, they were still no match for the black skeleton. After a few exchanges, the auras of Tang Zhun and the others became chaotic. They were either lightly or heavily injured. All of you, stand down. Seeing that Tang Zhan and the others were about to attack again, Chu Bei slowly rose into the sky. His calm voice drifted through the air. Boss Chu. Seeing that Chu Bei had arrived at the battlefield, Tang Zhan, Sword Venerable, and Venerable Acheron were overjoyed. At the same time, there was some worry in their eyes. After all, they were facing the second Tianzuan of the Hall of Souls, a true elite Do Sheng. In their eyes, although Chu Bei was strong, they were not sure if Chu Bei had entered the Do Sheng realm. If the other party was only a peak Do Zun, it would not change their current situation. When the experts of the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe saw Chu Bei, especially the heavily injured beautiful woman, their breathing became hurried. Their eyes were still filled with anger. Look, it's Boss Chu. He is also about to attack. I wonder if he can defeat that fellow from the Hall of Souls. We don't know his background. Hopefully, he will be able to fight that Dosheng from the Hall of Souls. After recognizing Chu Bei, a hopeful expression surfaced in the eyes of the experts who had yet to be pierced by the chains. It was as though they had found a life-saving straw. Yao Lao, do you think that Boss Chu will be a match for him? Venerable Feng Feng narrowed his eyes and pointed at St. Guyu in the sky. Through the previous battle, he had witnessed the strength of St. Guyu. He had defeated dozens of Dozuns by himself. Relax. Since Boss Chu has chosen to attack, he naturally has the confidence to defeat him. Yao Qin's eyes were filled with confidence. Qing Lin and Little Doctor looked at each other and clenched their fists. They seemed to be cheering for Chu Bei. You are that mysterious merchant who destroyed Mu Gu's plan to hunt the 3,000 burning flame in the Pill Tower Star region? Old Ghost Zhai Xing's eyes stared intently at Chu Bei when he heard the way the people around addressed Chu Bei. He frowned. That's me. Chu Bei nodded and replied, the person who destroyed the soul sect was also you? Old Ghost Zhai Xing inquired. It was also me. Chu Bei's voice was calm. Old Ghost Zhai Xing seemed to have thought of something and said, the Earth Fiend branch hall in the Burial Bone Mountain range was destroyed? It was still me. Chu Bei shrugged his shoulders. So the rumors were not wrong. All of this was because of you. Old Ghost Zhai Xing involuntarily clenched his fists in the face of Chu Bei's 3 consecutive replies. Black Qi surged behind him. Zhai Xing, what are you talking to him about? St. Guyu looked at Old Ghost Zhai Xing. His eyes were filled with confusion. He had just exited his retreat not long ago. Hence, he did not know what had happened in the Hall of Souls recently. Chapter 142. Old Ghost Zhai Xing glared fiercely at Chu Bei. After which, he told St. Guyu in detail about what Chu Bei had done to the Hall of Souls recently. After hearing Old Ghost Zhai Xing's words, St. Guyu's eyes clearly contained an additional cold in the forest murderous intent when he looked at Chu Bei again. You do have some guts. St. Guyu's sharp eyes landed on Chu Bei. It has always been my Hall of Souls provoking others. I did not expect that you would repeatedly obstruct my Hall of Souls from doing things. Then what do you intend to do? Chu Bei's eyes met St. Guyu's. There was not the slightest trace of panic on his face. In fact, he could be described as calm and composed. You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. St. Guyu snorted coldly. His eyes shot out a beam of lush green light. Then, he waved his shriveled right hand at Chu Bei. Subsequently, the enormous black skeleton not far away clenched its fist. The surface of the fist was wrapped in a dense black fog that could frighten one's soul. It directly smashed towards Chu Bei. However, just as the black skeleton's fist was about to hit Chu Bei's body, the surface of Chu Bei's body lit up with a brilliant light. This light was like a hard light wall that actually blocked the black skeleton's fist. It was also at this moment that an energy fluctuation that was different from Do Qi rippled out from Chu Bei's body. It swiftly covered the entire ancient ruins. You do have some skills. Seeing that the black skeleton's fist was blocked by an invisible force, a trace of surprise flashed across St. Guyu's eyes. Is this all you've got? It's no threat to me. Chu Bei looked at St. Guyu with ridicule. His words were filled with a strong provocation. 10,000 soul bone armor. St. Guyu was clearly infuriated by Chu Bei's words. As soon as he shouted in a deep voice, a thick black fog surged out of his body. Taking a closer look, he saw that the black fog was formed by countless souls. As soon as these souls appeared, they adhered to the skeleton's body, causing its aura to become much more vigorous. The black skeleton attacked again. In an instant, it appeared above him, and its huge fist smashed down again. With countless souls attached to it, the black skeleton's attack this time was clearly much stronger than the previous one. Terrifying energy fluctuations spread around the Crimson Palace. Tang Zhun, Sword Venerable, and the others who were watching the battle from the side frowned. Chu Bei made his move. As he raised his hand, his palm glowed brightly. The sun, moon, and stars seemed to revolve around his fingertips. A Dao technique that did not belong to this world circulated around his arm. He struck out with his palm. First, rolling lightning surged out from the palm. Then, it evolved into stars one after another. It was as if he was going to play out the universe. Under countless gazes, the dazzling palm print and the black skeleton collided fiercely. Boom! At the moment of impact, the world fell silent. At this moment, even the sound of the wind seemed to have disappeared. Everything seemed to have become dead. However, this kind of dead silence only lasted for an instant. A shocking explosion that caused the world to tremble exploded in the sky. A terrifying energy fluctuation that could destroy the world suddenly swept out from the point of explosion. A large area of space above the Crimson Palace collapsed into a dark void. Terrifying gusts of wind blew down from the ground, and huge gullies were left on the ground, extending far into the distance. Is Boschu really a Doshin? However, why can't I feel any Dochi ripple from Boschu's attack? How strange. Seeing the destructive storm that swept out from the battlefield, a shocked expression surfaced on the faces of the experts who were watching the battle, including Tang Jian, Sword Venerable, and the others. However, just as everyone thought that Chu Bei's palm was evenly matched with the black skeleton, the huge body of the black skeleton, which had countless souls attached to it, trembled intensely. After which, it emitted a bang and exploded into nothingness in front of everyone's eyes. Grug! The black skeleton exploded. St. Guyu, who originally had a high and mighty attitude, directly spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. His expression was pale. Clearly, the black skeleton had some kind of connection with his actual body that could not be severed. He had also suffered a backlash when the black skeleton was destroyed. Not only has he received it, he has also destroyed it. Boss Chu has gained the upper hand. Seeing the black skeleton disappear into the empty space, Tang Jian, Sword Venerable, and the rest of the experts who were watching the battle were initially stunned. After recovering, their eyes immediately revealed a wild joy. On the other hand, the hearts of the experts from the Hall of Souls, who were scattered in an orderly manner around the edge of the shrinking black light film, sunk slightly. Their expressions became ugly. The expression of old ghost Zhai Xing also changed abruptly. His eyes stared intently at Chu Bei. His eyes were filled with disbelief. He did not expect that even his second Tianzuan from the Hall of Souls would actually be at a disadvantage in the hands of the other party. On the battlefield, St. Guyu wiped away the bloodstain at the corner of his mouth. He slowly narrowed his eyes and looked coldly at Chu Bei. His expression gradually became serious. The original disdainful expression disappeared. Although St. Guyu was unable to determine Chu Bei's cultivation, it was obvious that he had already treated the latter as a strong enemy to face. After a long silence, St. Guyu suddenly let out a loud cry. In the next moment, a black storm surged out of his body. If one were to look carefully, this storm was actually formed by tens of thousands of souls. Almost at the same time, the pitch-black eye at the center of the nine-sided formation in the distant sky shot out a black light beam with a diameter of several hundred feet. Unlike the black light beams that were used to attack, this black light beam that was several times thicker entered St. Guyu's body. The latter's aura rose to another level. Buzz, 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 amidst the ear-piercing sound that caused one's scalp to turn numb, St. Guyu quickly formed a complicated seal. Gradually, his body began to turn illusory. The black curved blade that he had created became more and more real. After witnessing Chu Bei's strength, St. Guyu not only used his strongest killing move, but he also borrowed the strength of the nine-sided formation in the sky. Die! With a cold shout, St. Guyu completely fused with the black curved blade. The black curved blade trembled slightly. The space around the Crimson Palace was immediately sealed. Even people as strong as Tang Jian, Sword Venerable, and the others could not move their fighting auras. They were like sheep that had been placed on a chopping board and were about to be slaughtered. The black curved blade froze the space. Under countless anxious gazes, it headed toward Chu Bei. At this moment, regardless of whether it was Xiao Yin, Yao Chun, or the people from the Hall of Souls, everyone's hearts tightened. They knew that a collision that would determine the direction of the entire situation was about to begin. Chu Bei's face remained calm on the battlefield. His emotions did not fluctuate at all. He attacked once again. The sun, moon, and stars revolved around his palm as he lifted his hand. The great Tao rumbled. Unlike the previous palm strike, the rolling thunderbolts transformed into many stars. An illusory Kuan Pong bathed in lightning spread its wings and swallowed the sky, following which, an enormous illusory figure held a long sword and wantonly swung it. Every slash unleashed a frightening aura that could traverse the sky. These were the 3 techniques of the Jie sect from the Great Desolate Plain. Every technique was incomparably powerful. They possessed the power to destroy the world. This was also the only time Chu Bei had used the right to use a level 10 lower grade product. After exchanging the 3 techniques of the Jie sect, he possessed the Great Desolate strength that matched the 3 techniques. In other words, it was a strength that was different from fighting aura. This strength was equivalent to a 3-star Dosheng. However, after using the 3 techniques of the Jie sect, it could match a 4-star or even a 5-star Dosheng. St. Guyu had merely broken through to the 1-star Dosheng class. Even with the help of the strange formation, his strength was at the peak of the 1-star Dosheng class. Chu Bei slammed his palm down. The palm that merged the 3 techniques in an unfathomable manner instantly clashed with the black, curved blade that St. Guyu had transformed into. Bang! At the moment of the collision, the originally dim sky suddenly brightened up. 2 completely different energies intertwined and violently churned as they collided. However, a moment later, the experts sensed that one of the energies was swiftly dissipating. It had been engulfed and covered. The glaring light caused everyone to be unable to clearly see what was happening on the battlefield. All of them waited anxiously. Finally, another loud sound was emitted. The light that prevented one from looking at it directly disappeared. The battlefield once again became clear. A black figure flew out and collided with empty space. It continued to emit a loud thunder-like sound. At this moment, St. Guyu appeared to have had all his flesh and blood sucked out. All that was left was skin and bones. One could not find the slightest trace of blood on his pale face. His sunken eyes were filled with a rich unwillingness and fear. Chu Bei, who was on the battlefield, had not moved at all. His hands were placed behind his back, and he appeared as relaxed as ever. Bang! St. Guyu's body had just stabilized. However, before he could open his mouth to speak, the remaining energy within his body erupted and shattered his physical body. A spiritual body flew out before his physical body was shattered. However, just as this spiritual body was about to hide in empty space and flee, a huge hand came from a distance and firmly grabbed it. "Are you leaving just like that?" The corner of Chu Bei's mouth contained a smile as he restrained St. Guyu's spiritual body in front of him. St. Guyu was cold in the forest when he met Chu Bei's eyes. His voice was filled with a threat. "Aren't you afraid that the Hall of Souls will take revenge on you?" "I'm not afraid." Chu Bei parted the corner of his mouth. His mocking voice sounded as he clenched his right hand. Bang! Immediately, St. Guyu's spiritual body exploded and disappeared into empty space. After personally witnessing St. Guyu's death, old ghost Zhai Xing clearly panicked. He did not even care about how the 9-sided great formation in the sky was hunting the souls of the experts. However, just as old ghost Zhai Xing had entered the empty space, the space where he was at suddenly distorted and collapsed. Subsequently, a huge palm restrained him. "Since you're already here, why are you in such a hurry to leave?" Chu Bei looked at old ghost Zhai Xing with a playful expression. "My lord, please let me off. After this, I will definitely change my appearance and not do anything that offends the heavens and reason again." Compared to St. Guyu, old ghost Zhai Xing clearly lacked some backbone and was greedy for life and afraid of death. "You're really a coward." Chu Bei glanced at old ghost Zhai Xing. After giving his evaluation, he clenched his right hand. An explosion sounded again. Old ghost Zhai Xing did not even have the time to let out a miserable shriek before his physical body and soul were annihilated together. Chapter 143. After finishing off St. Guyu and Old Ghost Jiaxing, Chu Bei lifted his eyes and glanced indifferently at the nine-corner formation in the distant sky. He flipped his right palm and slapped towards the dark black pupil in the middle of the formation. Rumble. A loud sound appeared. The dark black pupil, along with the nine-corner formation, instantly collapsed under the terrifying palm that seemed to be able to destroy everything in its path. The thousands of chains broke inch by inch. The experts from the Hall of Souls that were connected to the chains immediately turned pale. Fresh blood was spat out from their mouths, and their auras became extremely weak. Those experts who had lost their consciousness and whose souls were about to leave their bodies woke up one after another. Chu Bei waved his hand once again. A couple of palm prints smashed towards the black light film that was continuously shrinking. When the light film collapsed, everything returned to normal. Under countless dull gazes, Chu Bei slowly floated back to the middle of the little doctor and Qing Lin. Seeing this scene, Tang Zhen, Huang Quanzunjia, and the others looked at each other. They involuntarily inhaled a breath of cold air. It was as if they had been struck by lightning and looked like a clay statue. The other experts were also dumbfounded. Their brains appeared to have lost the ability to think. They stood still on the spot like wooden blocks. Their eyes were stunned as they stared blankly at Chu Bei. It's over. We are saved. We don't have to die. Boss Chu has resolved this crisis. Finally, the experts around the Crimson Palace came back to their senses, and their excited cheers were filled with joy. That excited expression was as if they had been reborn after a calamity. The truth was indeed so. If Chu Bei had not appeared, even someone as strong as Tang Zhen and the other Dozuns would not be able to avoid becoming a powerful soul body of the Hall of Souls. Thank you, Boss Chu, for lending a hand. After calming down was restored, with Tang Zhen, Zun Yuan Acheron and the others at the lead, the experts in the remains bowed towards Chu Bei. Their eyes were filled with gratitude. The Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe, 9 serene deep ground python, and the other magical beast tribes looked at each other before hurriedly fleeing. Everyone, I believe that after this incident, you have all become even more aware of the importance of strength. Chu Bei rose into the sky once again, and his gaze swept across the tens of thousands of experts below. His loud and clear voice drifted out, I am a merchant. Tomorrow morning, I will be holding a big marketplace in Tianhuang City, and it will only last for one day. I will prepare a large amount of treasures for everyone. If you need them, please bring enough money. As long as we have enough money, tomorrow's grand marketplace will be a great opportunity that far surpasses the primordial ruins. Hypermarket. Including Tang Zhen, the group of powerhouses was first stunned. After regaining their senses, the Crimson Palace was filled with shouts. The content of these shouts was undoubtedly that they would definitely show up. Everyone, I will be waiting for you at Tianhuang City tomorrow. With a smile, Chu Bei returned to Qing Lin and Little Doctor's side. Do you still want to stay? Chu Bei looked at Yao Chun and Sword Venerable. Sword Venerable glanced at the 2 Do Shang skeletons floating above the Crimson Palace not far away. He shook his head and said, Forget it. Let them fight for it. After Chu Bei's group left, an intense battle broke out above the palace. Tang Zhen, Venerable Acheron, and the others once again fought over the Do Shang skeletons that had Tian-class Do skills imprinted on them. As for the other experts, when they saw the thousands of Hall of Souls experts who had suffered serious injuries due to the collapse of the formation, they all pounced forward. Their battle cries shook the sky. After returning to the All-Heaven shop, Chu Bei began to convert his cultivation. Through the system's recycling function, he had obtained a total of 5 million willpower. Adding the remaining from before, he had a total of 6,300,000 willpower. In the Dozun realm, converting 1 star of cultivation required 2 million willpower. Currently, his cultivation was a 6-star Dozun. After consuming 6 million willpower, his cultivation jumped from a 6-star Dozun to a 9 stars Dozun. However, what made Chu Bei complain was that he still had to go through 9 changes to break through from a Dozun to a Do Shang. Each change required another 500,000 willpower. In other words, before he could break through to a Do Shang, he still needed to prepare another 4,500,000 willpower to go through 9 changes. You all know about the ancient ruins in the Beast region's Bone Mountain Range, right? Of course I know. It's just that it's too far away, and it's in the magical beast camp. That's why I didn't go. That's right. If I reach the Do Wong realm and can fly, I'll definitely join in the fun. Even if I can't get the opportunity, it's still good to see the world. That's not what I'm talking about. Those who entered the ruins almost all died in there. What? Is the ancient ruins this time so dangerous? Although there were deaths in the ancient ruins in the past, the number of deaths didn't exceed 10%. Hee, they all fell into the Hall of Souls trap. Even the Hall of Souls elite doshangs were mobilized. As time passed, the experts in the ancient ruins began to return. News of what had happened in the ancient ruins also quickly spread. It was now evening. The topic of conversation in the 4 regions of the Central Plains revolved around the ancient ruins. Does the Hall of Souls want to become enemies with all the factions in the Central Plains? They've been acting more and more frequently recently. I really don't understand why they're collecting souls. I didn't expect that Boss Chu is actually the legendary elite Dosheng. If he hadn't acted, those fellows who entered the ancient ruins wouldn't have been able to escape the Hall of Souls' hands. It's rumored that Boss Chu is going to open a big store tomorrow. Those who want to see an elite Dosheng have a rare opportunity. Why don't we go together? Tianhuang City is going to open one. Gradually, Chu Bei's name began to spread among the experts in the Central Plains. The southern part of the Central Plains was a dreamlike fairyland. This place was filled with dense fairy aura. The mountains were green, the valleys were green, the waterfalls were flowing, the cranes were dancing, and the longevity apes were jumping around happily. Every mountain peak was connected to a jade palace. It was really like a poem or a painting, causing one to be intoxicated. Hundreds and thousands of white figures were dancing on the large square. If one were to carefully observe, these figures were actually all women. The Flower Sect was one of the 2 sects in the Central Plains. It was a sect that only accepted female disciples. Sect leader, you have exited your retreat. Following a beautiful fairy music that sounded in the sky above the square, the originally noisy square suddenly became quiet. A group of female disciples lifted their heads to look at the jade palace in the sky. They saw 2 figures slowly flying over. The one in front was a white-clothed, beautiful woman. She was the sect leader of the Flower Sect. A green-clothed lady followed behind the white-clothed, beautiful woman. The green-clothed lady's appearance was extremely beautiful. Her autumn water-like eyes and snow-like skin were rarely matched in terms of appearance, even in this sect that was filled with women. If Chu Bei was present, he would definitely be able to recognize the green-clothed lady beside the sect leader of the Flower Sect. This was because she was the former sect leader of the Yunlan sect, Yun Yun. After Chu Bei killed Yun Shan, Yun Yun did not choose to take up the position of the sect leader of the Yunlan sect. Instead, she came to the Central Plains. Due to a coincidence, she was valued by the sect leader of the Flower Sect and was accepted as a direct disciple. Did anything major happen in the Central Plains during these days that I was in a retreat? The sect leader of the Flower Sect looked at a disciple and asked. That disciple hurriedly recounted everything that had happened in the ancient remains from the beginning to the end. The Hall of Souls is really looking down on factions like us more and more. Fury surged onto the face of the sect leader of the Flower Sect after being informed of the actions of the Hall of Souls. She continued, "How much do you know about the origin of that merchant?" That disciple shook her head. Clearly, she knew very little. As for Yun Yun, her beautiful eyes were filled with astonishment when she heard what the disciple had said. He is actually a Doshenghe. Yun Yun muttered to herself. She appeared to have lost her mind. Yunair, do you know this person? The sect leader of the Flower Sect frowned slightly after hearing Yun Yun's muttering. Her face was filled with confusion. Reporting to teacher, this disciple has indeed interacted with this person before. However, at that time, I did not expect him to be an elite Dosheng who stood at the peak of the continent. Yun Yun bowed to the sect leader of the Flower Sect before telling her everything she knew about Chu Bei. Since he has already chosen to live in seclusion in the Kama Empire, why has he returned to the Central Plains? Is he trying to stir up the situation in the Central Plains? The sect leader of the flower sect lifted her eyes to look at the distant sky after hearing what Yun Yun had said. She felt increasingly confused as she muttered to herself, "A merchant who can satisfy everything as long as he has money. Just what faction is backing him? Teacher, are we going to Tianhuang City to participate in the auction that he will be holding tomorrow?" Yun Yun opened her mouth and asked, "I have been in a retreat for too long. It is time for me to go out and take a walk." The sect leader of the flower sect narrowed her eyes. "Moreover, it is such an interesting matter. Moreover, it is an elite doshang. Would it not be regretful if we do not go?" Other than the flower sect, the profound sky sect, Sound Valley, and other large factions within the Central Plains began to move. They were prepared to head to Tianhuang City. Due to the water effect, some factions outside the Central Plains had even begun to step into the wormhole in an attempt to join in the fun. Tianhuang City. With the help of the Cheng clan and the Liu clan, the preparations for the so-called hypermarket were already in full swing. First, it was the Green Stone Plaza. Many tables were placed in an orderly manner. Between each row of tables was a couple of meters-wide walkways. It was divided into 4 large areas. Each area had an eye-catching signboard. They were the numbers 9, 8, 7, and 6. These numbers corresponded to the grades of the goods. As for the outside of the Bluestone Square, all the main roads around it were guarded by guards. These streets were also planned as subsidiary areas of the hypermarket. They were to be used as free trade areas. After all, although there were many goods prepared by the hypermarket this time around, it was impossible for it to satisfy everyone. Hence, this free trade area could allow the practitioners who had come to join in the fun to freely trade with each other. "Boss Chu, we have already followed your instructions and planned the various functional areas." The clan heads of the Liu clan and Cheng clan looked at Chu Bei with incomparable respect from within the mansion. Chu Bei walked out of the mansion. He focused on the layout of the Green Stone Plaza and nodded with satisfaction. "The two of you have the priority to purchase tomorrow." "Thank you very much, Boss Chu." The clan heads of the Cheng clan and Liu clan faced each other when they heard Chu Bei's words. Their faces were filled with joy. Although only one day had passed since the announcement of the hypermarket, it was extremely popular. Almost all the experts above the Dohuang class in the Central Plains knew about it. This also meant that Tianhuang City would be a place where countless experts from the Central Plains would flock to tomorrow. It would definitely be packed with people. As the largest factions in Tianhuang City, their Cheng clan and Liu clan would definitely receive attention because of this. This was undoubtedly an opportunity for their two clans. Chapter 144. The next day. Today was the busiest day since the establishment of Tianhuang City. It was also the busiest day for all the shops in the city. The sky had yet to brighten, but all the large restaurants and shops in the city were packed with people. Countless experts were suspended in the sky above the huge city. The upper 3 floors and the lower 3 floors were all experts above the Dohuang class. Looking from a distance, they were like an army of locusts, densely packed. At a glance, this scene was a little frightening. If one were to talk about the only quiet area in Tianhuang City, it would be the Green Stone Square where the All Heaven shop was located and the main roads around it. This was because the Cheng clan and the Liu clan had issued an announcement in Chu Bei's name to control the area. Otherwise, the core area would have been flooded by a sea of people. Damn it, there are even more people than I imagined. Haha, this is what I call lively. I have never seen such a scene in my entire life. That's right. Even if we don't buy anything, this trip will not be in vain. Say, when do you think the big store will open? I wonder what kind of things they are selling. In any case, it will definitely not be an ordinary item. Think about it. Would the things that elite doshangs take out to sell not be treasures? Regardless of whether it was the sky or the ground, the entire Tianhuang City was filled with clamorous discussions. Outside of the controlled area above the Green Stone Square, those closest to the shop were all famous factions within the Central Plains. Quickly look. The people from the Burning Flame Valley have arrived. A group of red-clothed people flew over from the southwest of the shop amidst the exclamations of the experts. The one leading them was the valley chief of the Burning Flame Valley, Tangzhen. A loud rumbling sound was transmitted from the north just as Tang Zhan's group was looking for a good spot in the inner area, following which, an enormous thunderbolt suddenly rushed down from the cloud layer. A middle-aged man wearing a silver robe that was covered with lightning patterns slowly walked out. Lei the Venerable from the Wind Thunder Pavilion has also arrived. The experts once again exclaimed after recognizing Lei the Venerable. Lei the Venerable appeared in front of Tang Zhan as he stepped forward. He nodded slightly as a greeting. Tianhuang City Shore is lively today. Not long after Lei the Venerable arrived, an ear-piercing sound of something breaking through the air could be heard. In the next moment, under countless shocked gazes, a huge sword that was over 30 meters long cut open the space to the south of the mansion, and a figure walked out from the gap. It was a short old man dressed in sackcloth. He was the owner of Wanjian Pavilion, Sword Venerable. Unlike us, Old Man Feng took a shortcut and stayed in the mansion for the time being. After the Sword Venerable, a pitch-black light suddenly appeared in the sky, and an old man with a sinister look between his eyebrows appeared out of thin air. His pair of eyes were different from ordinary people. One was black and the other was white. Venerable Acheron is here too. In that case, including Venerable Feng, the pavilion masters of the Central Province's 4 pavilions are all here. In the sky, the group of experts continuously swept their gazes over Tang Zhan, Lei the Venerable, Sword Venerable, and the others. Are there any seats left? I wonder if you can give us a spot. At this moment, an ethereal voice suddenly drifted through the air. Soon after, a group of women flew over from the east of the mansion. The leader was a beautiful woman in white clothes. Those are the people from the flower sect. I never expected them to come as well. It would be great if they accept male disciples one day. I guarantee that I will be the first to sign up. Even Tang Zhan, Lei the Venerable, and the others turned their gazes towards the sect master of the flower sect when they heard the voice. After the flower sect arrived, the sect master of the Sky Nether sect, the Glacier Valley, and the Sound Valley led their teams over one after another. Buzz buzz, a few minutes later. A buzzing sound suddenly sounded above the green stone plaza. Soon after, a few figures walked out from the ripples. The leader was an old man in white clothes. Not even the slightest bit of aura seeped out from his body. His hair and beard were all white while his face was filled with deep wrinkles. His eyes appeared a little dense under the pressure of the wrinkles. At first glance, the old man in white clothes looked just like an ordinary old man. However, his ability to stand in the air proved that he was no ordinary old man. Behind the old man in white clothes was a group of experts in alchemist robes. Xin Kongzi from the Pill Tower. He has actually come personally. When they saw the old man in white clothes, it was not just the ordinary experts. Even Tang Zhan, Lei the Venerable, the sect master of the flower sect, and the others revealed a surprised expression. I never expected that the experts from the 1 hall, 1 tower, 2 sects, 3 valleys, and the square pavilion would all be present apart from the Hall of Souls. This trip has really broadened my horizons. Around the green stone plaza, on the uncontrolled streets, densely packed figures lifted their heads excitedly. Their gazes swept back and forth between Xin Kongzi, Tang Zhan, and the others. To them, it was as difficult as ascending to the heavens to meet such people on a normal day. However, today, not only did they meet them, but they also met a few people at the same time. Elder Xin Kongzi, I never expected that you would also come. Tang Zhan looked in the direction of the experts from the Pill Tower and cupped his hands together towards Xin Kongzi, who was leading the group. I have stayed in the Pill Tower for too long. It is time for me to come out and stretch my body. Xin Kongzi nodded towards Tang Zhan and replied. In Tianhuang City, countless gazes from the sky and on the ground were focused on the mansion in the green stone plaza. Time passed by minute by minute. Finally, the door of the mansion was opened with a creaking sound. Look, the door is open. Boss Chu has come out. It is about to begin. Is that Boss Chu? He is indeed impressive. That's right. At a glance, one can tell that he is not an ordinary person. He is indeed worthy of being a legendary elite Do Sheng. When they saw the door open and Chu Bei slowly walk out from the mansion, The experts who had arrived immediately became excited. Chu Bei's eyes swept around. He involuntarily inhaled a breath of air when he took a look. The number of people who had arrived had far exceeded his expectations. Especially in the sky, there was a black mass. Boss Chu, this place of yours is a little small. In the sky, Tang Jun cupped his hands toward Chu Bei and laughed. Chu Bei glanced at Tang Jun and then at the surrounding people. Everyone, thank you for coming to Tianhuang City today. The number of people here far exceeds the number of goods that I have prepared. Those who are unable to purchase goods today will be given priority when they come again in the future. Chu Bei's loud voice was like thunder. With the All-Heaven shop as the center, it quickly spread and drifted throughout the entire Tianhuang City. When he spoke until this point, Chu Bei extended his hand and pointed to the rows of tables that were arranged in an orderly manner in the 4 areas of the Green Stone Plaza. He continued, this time around, the big marketplace is divided into 4 areas. Only elite dozuns are allowed to visit the area with the 9 sign. If all the goods are not sold out at the end, elite dozongs can also visit. The number 8 sign area is only for elite dozongs. If the goods are not sold out in the end, elite dozuns and even those below dozongs can also purchase them. The number 7 sign area is for elite dohuangs. The number 6 sign area is for elite dohuangs to purchase. The reason for this rule was firstly because the goods in different areas had different effects on elite dozuns. For example, the level 6 goods area was of almost no help to elite dozuns. However, it was greatly beneficial to elite dohuangs. Secondly, it was to limit the flow of goods and create a better shopping environment. After speaking, Chu Bei waved his sleeve and a black leather chair appeared in a separate area. This chair is a level 9 massage chair. The original price is 200 million per massage, and each massage lasts for 5 minutes. In order to celebrate the grand opening of the hypermarket, it will be provided free of charge today. The moment Chu Bei's words fell, Tang Jun, Tang Hua, the Liu and Cheng family heads, as well as those who knew of its magical effects, became extremely excited. This was especially so for Tang Jun, who had personally experienced it. The heat in his eyes was difficult to hide. Back then, he had used this massage chair to break through from a 4-star do-zun to the peak of a 5-star do-zun in 5 minutes. If he could do it again, he would definitely be able to break through to a 6-star do-zun. As for the other elite do-zun who did not know much about the massage chair, their faces were filled with confusion and curiosity. Since there is only one massage chair, elite do-zuns can line up in an orderly manner. As for elite dozongs and below, they need to register and draw a lottery to determine the number of people who can use it. Chu Bei pointed at the 2 girls, Little Doctor and Qing Lin, who were already prepared. Of course, the free massage chair was naturally a benefit given by the system. More accurately, it was a benefit given to the buyers. Boss Chu, do you think this old body of mine can be massaged? At this moment, Xin Kongzi stroked his beard and laughed. Chu Bei glanced at Xin Kongzi and said, President, why don't you give it a try? Although the increase is greater the lower one's strength, even with your cultivation, it should be more or less useful. Thank you, Boss Chu, for allowing me to be the first person to be greedy. Xin Kongzi's voice, which carried a smile, appeared in front of the level 9 massage chair under the gazes of countless people. He slowly sat down. The moment Xin Kongzi's but touched the cloth of the chair, the entire chair released a brilliant light. Soon after, 6 mechanical arms appeared on both sides of the massage chair. They firmly fixed Xin Kongzi's head, upper body, and lower body. Tang Jun could not help but smile when he saw this scene. This process was the same as what he had experienced back then. Xin Kongzi instinctively wanted to resist, but a stunned expression quickly appeared on his face. Even with his cultivation at the peak of the Banshan class, his strength was actually completely suppressed by the strength of the massage chair at this moment. Before Xin Kongzi could recover from his shock, the massage chair began to shake intensely. Soon after, mechanical arms extended from both sides of Xin Kongzi and rubbed back and forth all over his body. Thump, thump, thump. Amidst the rhythmic tapping, Xin Kongzi seemed to slowly realize the beauty of the massage chair. He began to slowly close his eyes, as if he had entered a state of cultivation. Time passed by, minute by minute. When the massage went on for 3 minutes and 29 seconds, Xian Kongzi's entire body became transparent. He actually released a demonic light. The air around him began to emit an ear-piercing sound of friction. Soon after, there was a rumble, and an invisible, terrifying power surged out of his body. If he had not hurriedly retracted it, the entire Bluestone Square and even the entire Tianhuang city would have suffered a devastating blow. When the massage went on for 4 minutes and 18 seconds, there was a loud bang in the distant sky. The energy of heaven and earth fluctuated violently. An energy beam from the sky landed directly on Xian Kongzi's body. This energy beam of heaven and earth seemed to be pulled by some kind of force. It frantically surged into Xian Kongzi's body. What's going on? Could it be that Senior Xian Kongzi is about to break through? As far as I know, Senior Xian Kongzi has already entered the Bansheng class. Could it be that this massage chair can increase the cultivation of such a powerhouse? The faces of the elite Dozuns in the sky revealed shocked expressions as they sensed Xian Kongzi's increasing aura. Gradually, the energy around Xian Kongzi became increasingly intense. These energies began to wrap around Xian Kongzi. Their colors also appeared colorful. When the massage went on for 4 minutes and 48 seconds, Xian Kongzi suddenly opened his eyes. An even larger energy beam shot out of his body and into the sky. Soon after, a frightening aura that carried a majestic Do Qi spread out from Xian Kongzi's body. In an instant, it covered the entire Tianhuang city. This aura was like a sharp sword that could split open the sky. It pierced through the endless sky above his head. Many empty spaces in the distant sky above the Bluestone Square collapsed and became wildly distorted. The old me has finally taken this step. Xian Kongzi stood up after the massage ended. He laughed out loud. At this moment, Xian Kongzi appeared to have become 180 years younger. He had broken through. He had finally taken another step forward and successfully entered the ranks of 1-star Doshungs. The difference between Bansheng and Dosheng was just a single word. However, it was a frightening gap between two different levels. Although Banshengs could also call themselves Doshengs and possess strength that far exceeded that of a peak Dozun, they could only be considered fake Shengs. Only by reaching the level of 1 star would one be a true Dosheng. Elder Xian Kongzi has really broken through. Even a Bansheng can experience such an increase. Won't the increase be even greater to us? No wonder the original price was 200 million. However, he is actually providing it for free today. Boss Chu is really generous. I wonder if I will be blessed by the goddess of luck today and get a spot for this massage. Xian Kongzi's breakthrough instantly stirred a huge commotion among the crowd of experts in the sky and on the ground. Boss Chu, thank you very much. Xian Kongzi cupped his hands together toward Chu Bei. His eyes were filled with gratitude. When he looked at the massage chair again, he even had the impulse to give it another try. Congratulations on entering the ranks of Doshengs. The corner of Chu Bei's mouth carried a smile. Once he spoke, his gaze swept across the experts around him. All of you have personally witnessed the effects of the level 9 massage chair. I shall not say anything more. As for today, I want to sell all the items at 50% off the original price. 50% off? Oh my God. How is Boss Chu a businessman? He is a great philanthropist. This is too crazy. Chu Bei's words were like a bomb in the deep sea. It caused the already restless Tianhuang city to become even more turbulent. Of course, this 50% discount was also a benefit given by the system. Once he spoke, Chu Bei waved his sleeves. A couple of rainbow lights flew out and landed on the tables that were arranged in an orderly manner in the 4 areas of the Greenstone Plaza. Each table had a corresponding item. Level 9 items, 40 pieces. Level 8 items, 200 pieces. Level 7 items, 500 pieces. Level 6 items, 1,000 pieces. Chapter 145. Perhaps it was for convenience, but all the items of the same level were priced the same. Perhaps it was for the sake of giving benefits, but the prices of these items were much lower than the average price of the Wheel of Fortune. Level 9 items were originally priced at 200 million, but after 50% discount, they were priced at 100 million. Level 8 items were originally priced at 80 million, but after 50% discount, they were priced at 40 million. Level 7 items were originally priced at 40 million, but after 50% discount, they were priced at 20 million. Level 6 items were originally priced at 20 million, but after 50% discount, they were priced at 10 million. After Chu Bei announced the start of the sale, Xin Kongzi, Tang Zhen, Lei the Venerable, and the others immediately went to the level 9 area. Do Zongs, Do Huangs, and Do Wangs also went to the level 8, 7, and 6 areas respectively. Looking at the introduction of the items and the uniform prices, they were all grinning from ear to ear. However, due to another restriction, no matter if it was a Do Zun or other strong people, they could only buy one item. For a moment, the Bluestone Plaza was filled with people and people couldn't move. As for the level 9 massage chairs, the Do Zuns also took the lead to line up. Chu Bei originally thought that the hypermarket would last for a day, but unexpectedly, all the items were sold out in less than 2 hours. Boss Chu, can you add more items? Looking at the 4 empty areas, the strong people who didn't buy anything had pleading looks in their eyes. As for the strong people who successfully bought the items, their faces were brimming with satisfied smiles. Everyone, today's hypermarket has only prepared these items. When it opens again next time, you will have the priority to buy them. Chu Bei's loud voice floated in the air. If you really need anything, you can also enter the shop to choose from tomorrow. However, compared to today's hypermarket price, the prices in the shop will be higher. Although the items prepared by the system were all sold out, the strong people around still didn't leave because of the level 9 massage chairs. They all chose to try their luck. Every time the little doctor and Qing Lin called out a name, the person who was called would let out a wild cry. From day to evening, to dawn, and then to the next day. Heavenly Hypermarket has ended. All the products provided by the system have been sold out. Host has sold 32 billion and obtained 1/20th of willpower. 16 million willpower. As the system's voice rang out, the level 9 massage chair disappeared after massaging the powerhouse on the chair. Witnessing this scene, there was a burst of hissing from all around. They knew that the hypermarket had just come to an end. Boss Chu, when will the next hypermarket be opened? The group of experts looked at Chu Bei expectantly. Leave it to fate. Chu Bei smiled knowingly. 15 minutes later. Everyone, please wait for a moment. Just as countless experts were about to leave one after another, Tang Zhen flew high into the sky, and his vigorous voice spread out. Shua, the gazes of countless experts were focused on Tang Zhen. Their eyes were filled with confusion and confusion. Yesterday evening, my valley's people found a Soul Hall branch palace. I wonder if everyone is interested in going together to annihilate it? Tang Zhen's voice rang out again. What? Soul Palace sub-palace. We've actually found where they're staying. If that's the case, then what are we waiting for? Let's go together and annihilate them. Soul Hall's actions are becoming more frequent. If it wasn't for Boss Chu, we would have already been killed by them in the ancient ruins. Valley Master Tang, where is the Soul Hall branch palace that you mentioned? Not long after Tang Zhen's voice fell, the entire Tianhuang city was filled with sharp killing intent. These killing intents came from every expert who was almost killed by Soul Hall. Since everyone wants to get rid of this scourge of the central region, I'll lead the team over there. After speaking, Tang Zhen led the Burning Flame Valley's experts and flew towards the east. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The sound of something breaking through the air rang out. The densely packed experts soared into the sky and followed closely behind the Burning Flame Valley's army. Among these experts, there were Lei the Venerable, Sword Venerable, Acheron, and so on. Even Xin Kongzi from the Pill Tower had moved out. Boss Chu, are we going? Xiao Yan looked at Chu Bei. Let's go and take a look. A light voice was emitted from Chu Bei's mouth. Soul Hall could be divided into the Sky Dipper Hall and the Earth Dipper Hall. The latter was mostly guarded by Soul Hall's elders and protectors. Their strengths were mostly below 2 stars of Do Zun. The Sky Dipper Hall was further divided into the Sky, Earth, and Human Halls. The Sky Hall was the headquarters of Soul Hall and was personally guarded by the Hall Master of Soul Hall. The Earth Hall was second only to the Sky Hall and was guarded by the Deputy Hall Master of Soul Hall. The Human Hall was guarded by the 9 great heavenly venerables of Soul Hall. Currently, the branch palace that Burning Flame Valley discovered was the Human Hall of the Sky Dipper Hall. Skywater Mountain Range. This was an extremely ordinary mountain range that bordered the Beast region. Due to its proximity to the Beast region, powerful magic beasts often appeared. This directly caused the experts of the human race to rarely set foot here. However, if one were to venture deeper, one would discover that there were many peaks rising from the depths of the mountain range. On these mountain peaks, there were many towering pavilions. An exceptionally majestic large hall stood in the middle of these mountain ranges. Clouds lingered around it, causing it to appear extremely majestic. If one were to observe carefully, one would discover that there was a layer of black fog attached to the surface of the large hall. As the fog flowed, it gave one a kind of sinister and terrifying feeling. Many groups of black-robed figures were spread all over the mountain. They swept to and fro, appearing just like an inescapable net. With such a defense, even if a wild beast barged in, it would be immediately discovered. At this moment, there were nearly 50 figures within the large hall. The bodies of each of them vaguely emitted a powerful aura. The cultivation of the weakest person had reached a 6-star zone. Are the Hall Master and Deputy Hall Master aware of the deaths of 4th Tianzuan, 2nd Tianzuan, and Old Ghost Jiaxing? A figure looked at the black-robed man in the leader's seat and asked. The black-robed man, who was addressed as 4th Tianzuan, shook his head. The Hall Master and Deputy Hall Master are still in a retreat. Just what is the background of that mysterious merchant? If it was not because of him, the plan would not have failed. 2nd Tianzuan and Old Ghost Jiaxing would also not have died. The words of the experts within the hall carried a fury. Regardless of who he is, even if he is an elite Doshang, he will have to pay a terrible price for daring to oppose my Hall of Souls. A murderous intent flashed across the eyes of the 4th Tianzuan. Ta-ta-ta. However, a figure hurriedly flashed into the hall and knelt in front of the 4th Tianzuan just as his voice sounded. Why are you so flustered? The 4th Tianzuan frowned. He let out a cry and a powerful aura seeped out of his body, shaking the surrounding empty space until it emitted a buzzing sound. 4th Tianzuan, there is an attack from an expert. That figure hurriedly opened his mouth. Who is actually so bold? The 4th Tianzuan questioned. Pill Towers Xiankong Zi, Burning Flame Valley's Valley Chief Tang Jian, Wind Thunder Pavilion's Venerable Lei the Venerable, Wanjian Pavilion's Venerable Sword, Xingyun Ji's Venerable Feng, Ice River Valley's Valley Chief, Huangquan Pavilion's Venerable Acheron. A series of names with prominent positions within the Central Plains were revealed from the mouth of that figure. Hearing this, the expressions of all the experts in the hall, including the 4th Tianzuan in the leader's seat, instantly changed. They were incomparably grave. 4th Tianzuan, what should we do now? Should we retreat? A protector opened his mouth and asked. He did not expect that all the experts from these top factions would actually be mobilized and descend on this man-hall. Rumble, however, before the 4th Tianzuan could open his mouth, the large hall began to shake intensely. A sharp, miserable cry also began to be transmitted from outside the hall. Clearly, these factions had already begun to attack. Bang! Another loud sound was emitted. The large hall was blasted apart and suddenly collapsed. Before the 4th Tianzuan and the experts from the Hall of Souls could react, Tang Jian, Lei the Venerable, Venerable Wind, and the other experts from the Reverse Soul Palace had already charged over. Damn it! Why is it like this? Sensing the frightening killing attacks that were heading toward them, the faces of the experts from the Hall of Souls instantly revealed a horrified expression. The strongest among them, the 4th Tianzuan, was merely a 6-star Dozun. It was impossible for him to deal with so many invading experts. There was no suspense in this battle. In less than an hour, the originally majestic branch hall of the Hall of Souls had turned into ruins. The fourth Tianzuan and the other experts from the Hall of Souls had also died in the hands of Tang Zhan's group. After this battle, the Central Plains had an additional alliance. Its name was the Reverse Soul Palace Alliance. After destroying the Man Hall of Souls, the experts from the various factions bade each other farewell. Chu Bei's group also returned to Tianhuang City. Although the bazaar had ended, Tianhuang City was still many times livelier than before. Many of the original residents in the city were unable to resist the temptation and began to sell their homes to those who were willing to pay a high price. After returning to Tianhuang City, Chu Bei chose a mountain range outside the city and began to exchange his cultivation. Through this bazaar, he had obtained a total of 16 million wish points. Adding the remaining wish points from before, he now had a total of 16 million wish points. Although the exchange of 1 star of the Dozun class required 2 million wish points, after reaching 9 stars of the Dozun class, one still had to undergo 9 changes. Each change required 500,000 wish points. 9 changes required a total of 4.5 million wish points. To break through from a 9-star 9-change Dozun to an elite Dosheng, 1 star required 5 million will points. Amidst the vast and frightening momentum, Chu Bei used 14.5 million wish points and directly leaped from 9 stars of the Dozun class to 2 stars of the Dosheng class. Host's cultivation has broken through to the Dosheng class. Level 10 middle grade product authority unlocked. Just as Chu Bei stepped into the Dosheng class, the system's voice sounded in his mind, following which, the level 10 middle grade and level 10 lower grade products all lit up on the product panel. In the system's products, starting from level 10, they were further divided into upper, middle, and lower grades. After using the level 10 lower grade products earlier, Chu Bei had a rough idea. The top killing technique of the level 10 lower grade could fight against 3 stars or even 4 stars of the Dosheng class. Although he had not used the level 10 middle grade products, he should be able to fight against a 6 stars of the Dosheng class or even a 7 stars of the Dosheng class. Standing in the distant sky, Chu Bei once again looked at the vast land. His state of mind involuntarily changed. When he came, he was a yes man. Now, he was finally at the peak of the Doqi continent. Everyone, Boss Chu has become a Dosheng. Don't keep the monthly votes in your hands. Vote for this book. Those who can see this are all true love. I love you. Please vote. Chapter 146. Boss, are you there? Are you there? As soon as Chu Bei returned to the mansion, an unfamiliar and anxious female voice sounded in his mind. Chu Bei was stunned at first. Then, as if he had thought of something, he asked tentatively, "Little Ziyin?" Other than Xiao Yin, who was his agent, only Ziyin, who had purchased the voice transmission stone, could contact him directly. "It's me. It's me." The gentle and pleasant female voice sounded again. "Boss, help. Come to Dragon Island quickly. You've only been away for 7 days. Why has your voice changed? What happened?" Chu Bei asked curiously. "Ah, it's too long to explain. You'll know when you see me," Ziyin said hurriedly. "Anyway, on the first day Uncle Hei Qing and I came to the island, an old man said that I had the Dragon Emperor's aura on me and that I was the Dragon Emperor's daughter. Then, he told me a lot of things. The place where my tribe lives is called Ancient Dragon Island. However, the current Ancient Dragon Island is not complete. It's only a quarter of the original Ancient Dragon Island. Not long after the Dragon Emperor went missing, 3 elders with part of the royal bloodline proclaimed themselves as kings. They each controlled a part of the Dragon Island. Now, they are called North Dragon Island, South Dragon Island, and West Dragon Island. They called themselves the North Dragon King, South Dragon King, and West Dragon King. The ancient Dragon Island that I'm on has been called East Dragon Island ever since it was unsealed. These 4 Dragon Islands will meet in the void every once in a while. Every time this happens, the 4 Dragon Islands will fight each other. This is because the 3 elders who separated from each other want to unify the ancient Void Dragon Island. However, there is no obvious difference in their strength. Therefore, they can only be in a stalemate all these years. However, this time, the 3 Dragon Islands have joined forces. The island that I'm on now is under their crazy attacks. It's in danger. The woman spoke faster and faster. From time to time, the sound of explosions and fighting could be heard from there. Boss Chu, I beg you, come quickly. Toward the end, the woman's voice was trembling. All right, I'll go and take a look. Hearing the woman's sobbing pleas, Chu Bei's heart softened. He could not help but agree. Thank you, boss. You have to be quick. I'm afraid that the elders here won't be able to hold on for long. The woman's voice faded away. After that, Chu Bei summoned Xiao Yin, Yao Chun, Venerable Wind, Qing Lin, and Little Doctor. Boss Chu, are you going to give us some benefits? Xiao Yin looked at Chu Bei expectantly. Chu Bei ignored Xiao Yan's fawning gaze and said, Aren't you curious about the ancient void dragon? It just so happens that I'm about to make a trip there. Would you like to come with me? Of course. Upon hearing this, Xiao Yin and Yao Chen nodded in succession. Chu Bei nodded to express his understanding. Then, he waved his hand and the void in front of him split open. Once one reached the Doshang class, it was no longer difficult to traverse empty space. As for the location of the ancient Dragon Island, it was marked on the rough map provided by the system. In the empty space not far from the ancient Dragon Island, boom, an intense energy explosion sounded. A figure spat out blood and retreated with a pale face. At this moment, there were 8 figures floating around him. Each of them had a powerful aura. Clearly, they were extremely powerful. This was especially the case for the 2 men leading the group. They were emitting a terrifying pressure. Surprisingly, they were 2 terrifying experts who had reached the 9-star Do Zun class. How dare you? The Dragon Emperor's daughter has been found. Not only did you refuse to submit, but you even dared to attack the Dragon Island. This seriously injured and surrounded figure was He Qing, who had taken Ziyin away. Unfortunately, you won't be able to make it back to the East Island alive. Otherwise, you'll realize that there are people from the 2 islands in the East Island other than the North Dragon Island. One of the 9 stars Do Zun ancient void dragons said coldly, As for us, we're in charge of hunting down dragons like you who rushed back after receiving the signal. You don't even care about the Dragon Emperor. He Qing's expression was gloomy. He did not expect such a crisis to occur on the Dragon Island after only being away for a few days. The Northern Dragon King is the true heir. Aren't you a little too naive to think that you can use a fake that you found from an unknown place to unify the ancient void dragons? The leader glanced at He Qing with ridicule. All of you should be aware in your hearts whether it's true or not. He Qing coldly snorted. Ziyan's bloodline had been completely activated by an elder in the tribe on the first day he had brought her back. It was because of this that he knew that Ziyan possessed the royal bloodline. The 9 ancient void dragon experts around him frowned at the same time when they heard He Qing's words. Their expressions were a little unnatural. The royal family of the ancient void dragon tribe had absolute authority over the ordinary tribe members. The pressure that originated from the bloodline caused the ordinary tribe members to not dare to rebel against the royal family. They were all adult ancient void dragons. They possessed quite a high status within the tribe. Naturally, they understood that the young Dragon Emperor of the Eastern Dragon Island did indeed possess an extremely pure royal bloodline. However, they had been ruled by the Northern Dragon King for many years. Their views had changed. Although they did not dare to directly attack the young Dragon Emperor, they were not afraid of the other tribe members. Xin, there is no need to speak any nonsense with this fellow. After finishing him off, we still need to intercept the other ancient void dragons that are rushing back to reinforce us. Another ancient void dragon with the strength of a 9-star Do Zun waved his hand and cried out somewhat impatiently. With the Great Elder and the Second Elder, even if the 3 of you join forces, you can forget about destroying my East Dragon Island. Once the Dragon Emperor completely matures, your 3 great dragon islands can just wait for death. He Qing furiously cursed. You think too highly of the 2 of them. As for that so-called Dragon Emperor, she will cease to exist after today. The ancient void dragon called Xin coldly laughed. His eyes immediately turned cold as his palm slammed toward He Qing from a distance. A frightening wind tore through the empty space, and appeared in front of He Qing. He Qing was already at the end of his tether after being surrounded and attacked earlier. Once again, he received an attack from a 9-star Dozun. Immediately, the armor on his body cracked apart. A large mouthful of fresh blood was spat out. His body tore through the empty space and flew back like a cannonball. Damn it! I will drag all of you down even if I die. He Qing stabilized his body. After wiping off the fresh blood from the corner of his mouth, a fierce fury erupted within his eyes. The next moment, one could see him letting out a dragon roar to the sky. His body instantly swelled. In the blink of an eye, he had transformed into a half-human, half-dragon fighting mode. Soon after, his feet stomped on empty space and a punch was violently thrown toward Qian Xian. Forget about your current condition. I will not even pay attention to you even when you are at your peak. The ancient void dragon called Qian Xian glanced at He Qing with disdain. He clenched his fist and dense scales swiftly appeared. He also threw a punch forward. A low, deep sonic boom sounded as his punch collided with He Qing, who was shooting over. Bang! Another earth-shaking roar sounded within the empty space. Ancient void dragon Qian Xian's body trembled slightly from the collision of pure energy. His body only moved back a little. On the other hand, He Qing's arm, which had green veins popping out, emitted a qi sound. Numerous blood arrows shot out. Following this, the sound of bones breaking could be heard. I was unable to bring you along. How hateful. He Qing's body was covered in fresh blood as he floated in the empty space. His eyes began to become blurry. One could vaguely see a dense, monstrous hatred within his eyes. The last of his strength had been scattered by the other party in the collision earlier. If it were not for his extremely strong physical body, it was likely that his body would have exploded and he would have died the moment he collided. You can rest assured that as an ancient void dragon, I will not allow your corpse to lie in this ice-cold empty space. I will throw you into the dragon tomb. It can be considered giving you a home to return to. Cold in the forest's voice sounded from the empty space. Qian Xian's body flashed and instantly appeared in front of He Qing. Then, he gently placed his palm on He Qing's head as a cold light surged in his eyes. Your companions on East Dragon Island will accompany you very soon. One of them is the young dragon emperor that you brought back. A cruel smile appeared on Qian Xian's face as his sharp palm easily left 5 bloody holes on He Qing's head. The old dragon emperor will definitely return one day. He Qing snorted coldly as he stared at Qian Xian. His eyes were bloodshot. Even if that day comes, you won't be able to see it. Qian Xian's eyes narrowed. However, just as Qian Xian was about to crush He Qing's head, a dazzling 5-colored light suddenly lit up in the dark space. At the same time, a terrifyingly high temperature swept out. Qian Xian was slightly stunned. Before he could react, a ball of 5-colored flame instantly engulfed him. Almost at the same time, Qian Xian let out a shrill cry. Looking at the 5-colored flame that appeared out of thin air and Qian Xian, who was struggling madly in pain, He Qing's pupils shrank as a look of horror appeared on his face. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. The 5-colored flame burned fiercely. No matter what Qian Xian did, he could not break free from it. The burning sound was mixed with a shrill cry. As he struggled, Qian Xian's body twisted at a speed visible to the naked eye. He shrank until he disappeared into the 5-colored sea of fire. He Qing, you're in a sorry state. Just as He Qing was looking at the 5-colored sea of fire in horror, a mocking laugh rang in his ears. He Qing was stunned when he heard the familiar voice. When he came back to his senses, a look of joy and excitement appeared on his face. Boss Chu. After He Qing shouted excitedly, he immediately looked around as if he was looking for something. Soon, a ripple appeared in the space in his line of sight. 6 figures walked out, and the one in the lead was the familiar figure. If I had come a little later, you would have gone to meet the King of Hell. Chu Bei looked at He Qing, who was covered in blood, and said mockingly, Haha, looks like it's not time for me to die. He Qing laughed when he heard Chu Bei's words. However, he quickly thought of something and his face was filled with anxiety. He quickly said, Boss Chu, East Dragon Island is being surrounded by the other 3 Dragon Islands. Dragon Emperor Ziyin and the people of East Dragon Island are in danger. Please save them." After saying that, He Qing knelt down in the air before Chu Bei and kowtowed repeatedly. Chapter 147. The reason why I am here is because Ziyin asked me for help. Chu Bei looked at He Qing calmly. He waved his hand, and a majestic force lifted He Qing up. "That's great." Hearing this, He Qing's worried face relaxed. His voice was filled with excitement, as though he could not feel the pain on his body. Although he was not sure of Chu Bei's exact strength, he had only seen him easily suppress the 4 honorable elders from the Hall of Souls once at the Pill Tower. However, since he had appeared here, he naturally had some confidence. "He Qing, you actually communicated with the human race." Looking at the 5-colored sea of fire that had burned Qian Xian into nothingness, another 9 stars Dozun ancient void dragon coldly cried out. At the same time, he looked at Chu Bei cautiously. He could feel the terrifying energy contained in the 5-colored flame. His intuition told him that if he were to be wrapped by the 5-colored flame, he would end up like Qian Xian. Not even a corpse would be left. If it were not for Boss Chu, we would not have been able to find Little Dragon Emperor. He is the benefactor of our tribe. He Qing snorted coldly. "Don't waste time with them." After his indifferent voice sounded, Chu Bei's gaze swept across the other 8 experts from the Northern Dragon Island. Meeting Chu Bei's gaze, the 8 experts from the Northern Dragon Island instinctively retreated. Retreat. Looking at the 5-colored flame not far away, the 8 experts communicated with their eyes and immediately made a decision. However, before they could fly 100 meters away, the 5-colored flame burned fiercely. Subsequently, it evolved into a huge 5-colored fire palm that was 1,000 feet long. Rumble. The 5-colored fire palm landed and the empty space rumbled. Everywhere it passed, fragments of space flew everywhere. Looking at the 5-colored fire palm that appeared above their heads in an instant and feeling the terrifying energy fluctuation that it contained, the 8 experts from the Northern Dragon Island narrowed their eyes. However, just as they were about to counterattack, they suddenly realized that the energy in their bodies had been suppressed by the fire palm. They could not mobilize it for a moment and could only watch the fire palm land. Only fear remained in their eyes. Bang! Accompanied by a muffled explosion, the 8 figures instantly exploded into a cloud of blood mist under the fire palm. Almost at the same time, the blood mist was evaporated by the high temperature. "Boss Chu, may I know how many stars of Dosheng you are?" He Qing took a deep breath as he looked at the scene before him. He tilted his head and looked respectfully at Chu Bei as he asked in a probing manner. The 8 experts from the Northern Dragon Island, including the 9-star Dozun, were not even a match for the other party. He recalled the scene when he first came into contact with the other party. Fortunately, he saw the situation clearly and cowered quickly. Otherwise, he would have become a dragon corpse at that time. In response to He Qing's question, Chu Bei only smiled and gave him a meaningful look, allowing him to think for himself. "Boss Chu, I'll show you the way." Noticing that Chu Bei had no intention of answering, He Qing scratched his head awkwardly and said. The boundless pitch-black void was filled with monotony and loneliness. At the same time, it also possessed many dangers. The occasionally surging spatial turbulence was sufficient to shatter an elite dozong. Chu Bei's group traversed the empty space. Not long later, a light suddenly appeared in their sight. Looking in the direction where the light was emitted from, one could see an extremely large island suspended in this pitch-black empty space. Rumble. Even though there was still some distance between them, one could already hear the extremely intense energy explosions that were repeatedly emitted from the enormous island. Looking over, waves of extremely wild and violent energy attacks swept out in all directions from the island like a storm. At this moment, there were an innumerable number of human figures suspended in the empty space above the island. These figures were all waiting solemnly. Their sharp gazes were locked onto the island below. Once someone charged out from the island, these figures would swarm over like a storm. They would either kill the person who had charged out or force them back. It could be said that the existence of these figures had caused the island below to form an impenetrable net, completely trapping them. Maintain your vigilance. There is an external aura fluctuation. A strong man, who was the leader of a group of around 20 people in the empty space, suddenly frowned, after which he focused his eyes in the direction of Chu Bei's group. "Hey Qing, how did you manage to make it back alive?" The strong man revealed a surprised expression when he saw the appearance of the person who had arrived. They had made a detailed plan for the other 3 islands to attack the East Dragon Island this time around. They could be divided into 3 groups. The first group would directly enter the Dragon Island and attack. The second group would guard the sky above the Dragon Island, which was them, to prevent the experts from the East Dragon Island from escaping. The third group would guard the periphery of the Dragon Island, and specifically kill the experts from the East Dragon Island who were returning after receiving the distress signal. The fact that He Qing was able to appear here meant that an accident had occurred in the third group of experts from the 3 islands. "Are you referring to the group of people who have intercepted me? They are already on the way to Acheron." He Qing emitted a cold laugh. His eyes stared intently at the strong man. "You will join them very soon?" Arrogant. The strong man's expression sank. Murderous intent surged. His densely cold voice sounded as he waved his hand at the ancient void dragon behind him. "Kill him!" The many figures around him flashed at the same time when they heard the cry of the strong man. Immediately, many powerful energy light pillars shot toward He Qing. He Qing took 2 steps back when he saw the powerful attacks that were shot over in unison. He bowed respectfully to Chu Bei. "Boss Chu, you are here. Advance when you should and retreat when you should. You will definitely become a great person." Xiao Yan's eyes were filled with praise as he watched He Qing, who had appeared to be intimidating a second ago, withdraw and hand the battlefield over to Chu Bei in the next second. Chu Bei glanced indifferently at He Qing. He shook his head and took a step forward. With a wave of his sleeve, a majestic energy storm surged out like a surging river. The attacking beam of light instantly exploded and dissipated. How can this be? The group of ancient dragon experts who had attacked had yet to recover from their shock when the unstoppable energy storm had already surged in front of them and violently struck their bodies. Bang, bang, bang. This energy storm was undoubtedly destructive to the warriors from the 3 great dragon islands. They did not have the time to take any defensive measures before the armor on their bodies was blasted into powder. Soon after, their life aura disappeared amidst their miserable cries. A human actually dares to intervene in the matters of our ancient void dragon tribe. Aren't you afraid that our ancient void dragon tribe will take revenge on you? The large man clenched his fist tightly as he watched his subordinates fall one by one toward the ancient dragon island below. The veins on his face were exposed as he stared intently at Chu Bei. The murderous desire in his eyes was dense as he let out a low roar. Chu Bei ignored the large man's clamor. Instead, he lowered his head and looked at the Dragon Island below. The current Eastern Dragon Island was already riddled with holes. This was especially the case in the middle of the island where an extremely intense battle was erupting. Wild and violent energy caused the entire place to become much dimmer. The main defensive line of the Eastern Dragon Island had already shrunk from the periphery to the core Dragon Hall in the middle of the chaotic Dragon Island. At a glance, other than the area near the Dragon Hall, 3/4 of the entire Eastern Dragon Island had been occupied by the 3 great Dragon Islands in the north, south, and south. The current situation was undoubtedly extremely bad for the Eastern Dragon Island. "Boss Chu, Dragon Emperor Ziyin is over there." At this moment, He Qing exclaimed as he pointed above the Dragon Hall. "Where is she? Why don't I see her?" "I don't see her either. Where is little Ziyin?" Xiao Yin, Qing Lin, and little doctor frowned when they saw that they could not find that familiar petite figure as they looked in the direction that He Qing's right hand was pointing at. He Qing was stunned for a moment before he quickly came to a realization. He added, "Dragon Emperor Ziyin no longer looks like a little girl after the first elder activated her bloodline." He Qing pointed above the Dragon Hall again after he finished speaking. This time, Xiao Yin and the rest noticed a group of Eastern Dragon Island experts who were being besieged. These East Dragon Island experts were defending against the attacks from the experts from the other three islands, while doing their best to protect a beautiful woman in the middle. The beautiful lady had long purple hair that emitted a faint charm. Her tall and slender figure was wrapped in a set of dark gold clothes-fitting armor. The armor wasn't bulky, and it clung tightly to her exquisite body, outlining her beautiful and sexy curves. No wonder her voice has changed. Chu Bei muttered to himself as he looked at the devastatingly beautiful little Ziyin on the battlefield. Although little Ziyin had already grown into a moving and enchanting beauty, perhaps because her mentality had not changed much, tears still remained at the corners of her eyes as she looked at the tragic situation around her, seemingly at a loss of what to do. Boss Chu, that is the battlefield of the first elder and second elder. It is also the key to victory or defeat in this battle. He Qing pointed in another direction. That was also the area with the most terrifying energy fluctuation on the eastern Dragon Island. Looking over, one could see a dazzling circle of light hovering in the sky like a scorching sun. Within the halo, one could vaguely see 5 figures constantly colliding with each other. To be precise, it was 3 figures besieging 2 figures. Each time the 5 figures attacked, waves of frightening thunderbolts and frightening energy storms would be stirred up. The group of ancient void dragons below the battlefield distanced themselves. It was as though they were afraid of being affected by the shock waves that came from all directions. Are the other 3 the dragon kings of the other 3 islands? Venerable Feng's eyes locked onto the 3 figures on the battlefield and could not help but ask. A grave expression flashed across his eyes. Even though he was far away, he could clearly sense that the strength of any one of the 5 figures far surpassed the second Tianzuan of the Hall of Souls, St. Guyu. Among the 5 figures, the aura of the 3 figures that had joined forces was slightly stronger than the other 2. All of you, go to hell. The burly man above the eastern Dragon Island could not help but let out a dragon roar when he saw that Chu Bei's group had not looked at him since the beginning. Noisy. Chu Bei's eyes turned cold as the dragon roar sounded beside his ear. He threw a palm forward, and the burly man with a monstrous aura instantly exploded into a bloody mist. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Due to this commotion, the other patrolling teams of the 3 islands in the surrounding void space were alerted one after another. A moment later, thousands of long rainbows streaked across the sky. In the blink of an eye, Chu Bei and his group were surrounded by 3 layers of people. Kill! A cry sounded. Countless long arcs charged towards Chu Bei's group from all directions like shooting stars. Chu Bei's eyes swept across the thousands of figures pouncing towards him. His expression did not change at all. His body shook slightly. A flame formed by 5 types of heavenly flames flew out from his body. Soon after, it turned into a 5-colored flame that swiftly spread with him at the center. In an instant, the originally dark and cold void seemed to have turned into a huge furnace. In an instant, miserable cries that caused one's scalp to turn numb sounded in the void. He Qing glanced around and instinctively shrank his neck. Before the thousands of experts from the 3 islands could reach them, they were swallowed by the 5-colored flame. Miserable cries accompanied by painful struggles could be heard as they fell to the ground. It had to be said that after reaching the Battle Sage realm, Chu Bei found that the heavenly flames were more useful, especially when dealing with experts below the Battle Sage realm. No matter how many of them there were, they would all be burned to death. Boss Chu, the guys at the periphery have been dealt with. Let's go and help Dragon Emperor Ziyin first. He Qing pointed in Ziyin's direction with an anxious look on his face. At this moment, there was no one patrolling above the Dragon Island. Okay. Chu Bei nodded slightly and responded softly. At the same time, on the Dragon Island battlefield below, what's going on? Why did the guys guarding above all fall down? They don't seem to have any signs of life. Dead, they're all dead. Where did the 5-colored flame that enveloped them come from? Haha, our East Dragon Island is not destined to die. This is definitely the protection of the old Dragon Emperor to punish you traitors from the 3 islands. The experts from the 4 islands, who were fighting on the islands, stopped their attacks when they saw the many ancient dragon corpses falling like meteors. All of them revealed shocked expressions. The experts from the East Dragon Island revealed a joyous expression when they saw that the corpses were experts from the three islands. The three Dragon Kings from the three islands revealed grave expressions on the battlefield where the energy was the most intense due to this sudden change. The next moment, the three Dragon Kings swept their eyes over the empty space, as though they were searching for something. The number of ancient void dragons guarding outside the East Dragon Island accounted for 1/3 of their total fighting strength. However, such a large number had all been wiped out. The first elder and second elder from the East Dragon Island exchanged glances with each other after witnessing this scene. Their joy contained some confusion. Clearly, they did not know who had done this. Only an elite Doshang could possess such strength. However, no matter how hard they racked their brains, they could not think of a third elite Doshang in the East Dragon Island other than them. Above the Dragon Hall, Ziyin also noticed the many charred corpses falling from the sky. She was initially stunned. After recovering from her shock, her thin body began to tremble in excitement. A circular ripple appeared a short distance away from her a short while later. 7 figures walked out from within it. The figure leading the group was the person she had been thinking about the most. He was the person who could save the East Dragon Island from danger. Chapter 148. Dragon Empress Ziyin. He Qing immediately flew to Ziyan's side and bowed respectfully to Ziyin. However, Ziyin ignored He Qing and quickly flew to Chu Bei's side. "Boss, you're finally here. If you were any later, I wouldn't be able to take it anymore." When she saw that Chu Bei had finally arrived, the determined look on Ziyan's face disappeared. She threw herself into Chu Bei's arms with tears in her big, watery eyes. Chu Bei coughed awkwardly as he felt the 2 plump lumps in front of him. It was as if he was reminding Ziyin that she was no longer the little girl who could sleep on the same bed as him. However, Ziyin didn't seem to understand the meaning behind Chu Bei's coughs. She had no intention of letting go. The past 7 days had been too difficult for her. Putting aside the pressure that she had to endure after suddenly becoming the Dragon Empress, she felt as if a knife had been twisted in her heart when she saw her clansmen who had died trying to protect her. However, every time she wanted to cry, Elder Zhu Li would remind her to be mindful of her status. She could only grit her teeth and force herself to be strong. Now, when she saw Chu Bei, it was as if she had found her pillar of support. She had completely let go of the heavy burden on her. Qing Lin and the little doctor looked at Ziyan's perfect figure and murmured, "Ziyin, do we have to call you Elder Sister Ziyin in the future?" "No way." Ziyin wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes and smiled through her tears. Ziyan's action instantly shocked all the ancient void dragons present. In particular, Elder Zhu Li, who had been guarding Ziyin by her side, opened his mouth wide. Even the Dragon Kings of the 3 islands, Elders Qing Shan and Qing Shui of the East Dragon Island, and the other 5 experts looked over with confusion and surprise. The new Dragon Empress, she actually hugged that guy. Where did he come from? How is he related to the new Dragon Empress? The new Dragon Empress seems to be very dependent on him. Isn't that Elder He Qing standing next to him? Even Elder He Qing is very respectful to him. Do you think the deaths of the experts of the 3 islands who were guarding above have something to do with him? The ancient void dragons of East Dragon Island ignored their injuries as they stared at Chu Bei, who was being held tightly by Ziyin. Their eyes were filled with disbelief and shock. "Boss Chu, please save East Dragon Island. Chase these invaders out of East Dragon Island." Ziyin finally let go of Chu Bei. She stretched out her hand and pointed at the experts of the 3 islands. There was a pleading tone in her voice. "Just chase them away? What if they came back? Why don't we just kill him?" Chu Bei's calm voice drifted through the air. Although his voice was not loud, it rang clearly in the minds of everyone present. After that, Chu Bei patted Ziyan's head and said, "Stay here and leave the rest to me." "Yes." Ziyin responded subconsciously. "How pretentious. Let me have a go at you." Suddenly, a thunderous voice exploded in the sky above the Dragon Hall. Immediately, a black-faced man, whose body was like a giant ape, flashed and appeared. His expression was ferocious as he threw a punch furiously at Chu Bei. The frightening energy caused the air within 1,000 feet radius to be instantly sucked dry. This black-faced man was the leader of the team that had surrounded Ziyin earlier. Boss Chu. He is the great commander of West Dragon Island, Xianmo. He is a band sage. He Qing glanced at the black-faced man and respectfully explained his identity to Chu Bei. Chu Bei smiled knowingly. He did not even look at the black-faced man. His right fist was wrapped in 5 colored flames as he threw out a huge fire fist. In the next moment, the 5 colored fire fist directly collided with the black-masked man under several shocked gazes. And, in the instant of the collision, Chu Bei's 2 syllables that were as calm as water were the first to spread across the horizon before the sound of the explosion. Bang! An earth-shaking explosion sounded. A frightening spatial storm was formed at the point where the 5-colored fire fist and the black-faced man collided. Soon after, the black-faced man let out a furious roar. However, the black-faced man's furious roar did not last for long. The point where the two collided emitted a loud bang and turned into a sea of fire. Scorching shockwaves suddenly swept out. All the nearby powerhouses, including Zhuli, instinctively put up their defensive armor. The ancient void dragons of the 3 islands that followed the black-faced man were violently sent flying by the aftershocks. The blood in their bodies churned. When the 5-colored sea of fire returned to Chu Bei's body, the black-faced man was no longer at the spot where the collision occurred. Only empty space had collapsed due to the 5-colored flames. The great commander's aura has disappeared. How is this possible? The experts of the 3 islands were stunned as they stared at the collapsed empty space. Their pupils shrunk. There was an additional wariness in their eyes when they looked at Chu Bei again. In the sky above the Dragon Palace, the eyes of the experts of the East Dragon Island led by Zhu Li were filled with shock. They could not believe what they had just seen. He Qing. Who is he? Zhu Li came to He Qing's side and asked in a low voice. Elder, he is the one who brought Dragon Emperor Ziyin to the central continent. He Qing briefly explained some of the information he knew about Chu Bei. I wonder if he's strong enough to join the first Elder's battle. If he's strong enough, we might really be able to resolve our crisis. Zhu Li looked at Chu Bei with more respect when he heard He Qing's words. After finishing off the great commander of the Western Dragon Island, Huanma, Chu Bei looked at the battlefield where the energy fluctuations were the most terrifying. Under the joint attack of the 3 islands' Dragon Kings, the great elder of the East Dragon Island, Qing Shan, and the second elder, Qing Shui, were clearly at a disadvantage. They were constantly on the defensive. As the battle reached its climax, Qing Shan and Qing Shui's bodies were covered with wounds that could be seen with the naked eye. Chu Bei's figure flashed. When he appeared again, he was already at Qing Shan and Qing Shui's battlefield. Thank you for your help. Qing Shan and Qing Shui cupped their fists at Chu Bei. They had seen how the other party had killed the experts of the 3 islands. Go and recuperate. Leave this to me. Chu Bei said indifferently. The 3 of them are 3 Stardust saints. I wonder if you go and recuperate. Before Qing Shan and Qing Shui could finish their words, Chu Bei spoke again. Qing Shan and Qing Shui exchanged glances. They did not say anything else and retreated to the side. How arrogant! The 3 islands' Dragon Kings stared coldly at Chu Bei. This was especially so for the Western Dragon King. Because the latter had killed Huanma, his gaze was filled with killing intent when he looked at Chu Bei. Back then, Zhu Kuan had groomed all of you. Now, not only have you torn the Dragon Island apart, you even want to kill his son. Has your conscience been eaten by dogs? Chu Bei's gaze swept across the 3 islands' Dragon Kings. His voice was cold. The expressions of the 3 islands' Dragon Kings became unnatural when they heard the name Zhu Kuan from Chu Bei's mouth. A moment later, they said, the old Dragon Emperor has been missing for thousands of years. I'm afraid that he is no longer in this world. As for this so-called new Dragon Emperor, she must be a fake. What a joke. Shouldn't all of you know better than me whether she is Zhu Kuan's descendant? Chu Bei snorted coldly. What right does an outsider like you have to interfere in the matters of our ancient void dragon tribe? The murderous intent in the eyes of the 3 islands' Dragon Kings was obvious. Clearly, They were unwilling to talk about Ziyin with Chu Bei. So what if I'm an outsider? What can you do to me if I interfere? Chu Bei ignored the three islands' Dragon King's murderous gaze. The corners of his mouth curled into a smile. Chu Bei looked at the various battlefields that were still engaged in intense battles below after his words sounded. He extended his right hand, and a five-colored flame instantly spouted from his palm. In the blink of an eye, the five-colored flame turned into the shape of a huge bowl that surrounded the Dragon Hall. All ancient void dragons of East Dragon Island, stop fighting immediately and enter the area that I have drawn. A majestic voice rang out from Chu Bei's mouth and drifted to every corner of the Dragon Island. The ancient void dragons of East Dragon Island were stunned for a moment before they swiftly followed Chu Bei's instructions. One by one, they flew into the area isolated by the five-colored flame. Xiaoyin, Venerable Wind, Ziyin, and the others also entered at once. When all the ancient void dragons of East Dragon Island had entered the safe area of the Dragon Hall, Chu Bei extended his right hand into the air and clenched it slightly. Immediately, a five-colored sea of fire appeared in the distant sky above East Dragon Island and enveloped every corner of the island. What is he doing? Just as the ancient void dragons of the other three islands were staring at the five-colored sea of fire in shock and confusion, the sea of fire suddenly churned like waves, following which, five-colored fire lotuses appeared one after another. Buzz, buzz, buzz. At the next moment, thousands of five-colored fire lotuses pierced through the void and descended. It was as if these fire lotuses had grown a pair of eyes. Wherever they landed, there would definitely be ancient void dragons of the three islands. Rumble, rumble. In an instant, deafening explosions spread throughout the island. What floated in the air was a miserable and painful wail that made one tremble with fear. Heavenly flames. 5 types of heavenly flames. He has combined them into one type of flame. After Qing Shan and Qing Shui identified the aura in the flames, they exchanged a glance. Their eyes were filled with astonishment. Have these fire lotuses developed intelligence? To think that they can find their own targets. Zhu Li's face was filled with astonishment as he watched the scene unfolding outside the safe area in disbelief. Every five-colored fire lotus would burn at least 3 ancient void dragons when it smashed down. It was extremely accurate. At a glance, there were close to 1,000 fire lotuses. None of them missed. In just a few seconds, thousands of invading ancient void dragons of the three islands were affected by the fire lotuses. What was even more terrifying was that the 5-colored flames in the fire lotuses seemed to be inextinguishable. Even if some of the ancient void dragons were only slightly affected, they would be completely engulfed by the sparks. Gradually, the miserable cries on the East Dragon Island faded away. Along with them, the invading ancient void dragons of the three islands disappeared as well. It's gone. It's all gone. It's fortunate that I've been guarding the East Dragon Island all this while. Otherwise, I'd probably be burned to death by those terrifying fire lotuses like them. In the safe area, the ancient void dragons of the East Dragon Island gulped as they looked at the surroundings that had suddenly quieted down. They would never have imagined that the invading ancient void dragons of the East Dragon Island would be completely wiped out because of the arrival of a single person. After regaining their senses, the ancient void dragons of the East Dragon Island once again raised their eyes to look at the figure in the sky opposite the Dragon Kings of the three islands. The respect in their eyes was even greater than the respect they had for Qing Shan and Qing Shui. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.